Hello and welcome back to Ultimate Blitz Challenge here at the St. Louis Chess Club, the capital of chess in America. We're on day 2 of the Ultimate Blitz, and yesterday was absolutely thrilling. The question on everybody's mind, can Garry still hang?
Absolutely. He played great yesterday. He wasn't rewarded because of poor blunders and big mistakes at critical moments, but I'm looking forward to a fantastic day of chess.
And let's take a look at our cast for this once-in-a-lifetime event here. Garry Kasparov is playing against the top 3 players in the U.S. Championship. And as fate would have it, the top 3 in the tournament finished in 1st through 3rd. Our new U.S. champion, Fabiano Caruana, Nakamura, and So. And the standings, we got Nakamura and So tied for the lead, but it is very tight. Kasparov just half a point behind, and Caruana still well within a reaching distance with 3.5. Let's take a look at the format here. We've got a series of round robins every day, 3 yesterday, 3 today. The time control is 5 minutes with a 3-second delay. Oftentimes, Blitz play with an increment. Delay, you never get any time back. You can't make a bunch of moves to gain time like you can with increment.
Exactly.
And it's not all just for fun here. It is worth $50,000 in prize money here. First place will take home $20,000. For the players who already won big checks in the U.S. Championship, a nice little cherry on top. But Garry Kasparov has generously agreed to donate his winnings to the U.S. Chess Olympic team. And guess what? The 3 players who he's fighting against will be on that team.
How sweet it is, isn't it?
So you win or you win?
Yeah, it's a win-win for the American players, and a big thank you to Garry Kasparov for supporting our teams.
And we've got Grandmaster Maurice Ashley for a little insight on what happened yesterday and what we're going to see today.
Well, an exciting day 1 of action, absolutely. And what could be more exciting than a day 2? We get another chance at this. It's incredible watching these players, and in particular Garry Kasparov. Yesterday, he was a little bit off his game, but he played some wonderful chess, and we expect to see more excitement here today. Well, let's see the lineup, how the players did. First of all, the U.S. champion, Fabiano Caruana. He started off okay in the tournament, but then he got derailed. By the end, he lost 3 games in a row. We'll see whether or not he can get it together and come back. He's still absolutely within a stone's throw of first place. But it's the big dog, the man himself, Garry Kasparov, hosting the show. He just played wonderful chess. People are dreaming about a Garry comeback the way he played. Well, he's going to try to show the youngsters today that yesterday's fluke of his 3 knights gambit, that is dropping 3 knights, blundering them in his games, was history, is history now, and he's going to look to put the pedal on and show what kind of comeback kid he could be. But he's going to have to catch these gentlemen. First of all, Grandmaster Wesley So. People didn't look at him as one of the favorites in the event, but guess what? Luck smiled on him yesterday. He was able to pick up a couple of games from blunders, and now he's in a tie for first place. So he'll be looking to see if he can solidify his standing right now and show that he should be the deserved winner. But he will have to compete with his co-leader, Hikaru Nakamura, one of the best in Blitz on the planet. He did not play well by his own standards yesterday, but expect him to come back fighting strong, knowing that if he wins, he'll be the winner of Ultimate Blitz. And there he is, his game face on, as we go into day 2 of the action.
That's right, and the bragging rights, ultimate bragging rights.
And Blitz, absolutely. And what we saw on day 1, Jen, was the players leapfrogging one another. You saw that Wesley started with 2 losses, was totally in the basement, and then he turned it around, and he's a co-leader. With the players so bunched up and the games coming so quickly, that leaderboard can change literally in a single round.
That's right. No clear leader, and I really think it's anyone's game today. But what's your prediction, Yasser?
Garry.
Really, I mean, Garry played just such amazing chess yesterday, but I think it's actually unfair to say he had 3 knight blunders. He actually blundered 4 knights. The 4th was to Nakamura because of the touch move incident. Yeah. Nakamura decided not to call it.
Right.
And he ended up drawing that game.
Right. Just think about that. 2 of Wesley So's victory in this tournament were against Garry, and both of those victories came from knight blunders that Garry was winning. Simply give those 2 games to Garry, And
That's
he's
true.
our tournament
So it's
leader.
only half a point that he would have saved versus Nakamura, where he would have gotten 2 full points from Wesley. So
Exactly.
I agree with you that, and it is very hard looking at the way that Garry played chess yesterday. Just so beautiful, the concepts, the aggressive moves and sacrifices that he made under time pressure, just really incredible.
Yeah, the mixture of his ability to play strategically, his ability to play tactically, to defend, to aggress and attack. And these guys that he's pushing around, let's not forget that all 3 are in the top 10, and Fabiano Caruana is number 2, and he's in last place.
And here's Wesley So looking very casual. He got the memo. Do not wear long sleeves, especially not a jacket. So he learned quick.
Well, yeah, he has a lot of respect for Yasser, so I'm quite sure that he caught wind of what Yaz was saying. You know, speaking of intensity, Garry Kasparov, I saw him at our Kingside Diner earlier today,
breakfast, yeah.
and it looked like he was about to checkmate the eggs.
Really?
He
What
was
do you
just
mean?
like, he was just so intense. It looked like he was already playing a chess game. He was actually like sitting there with his head in his hands, like I guess maybe going over some of his opening preparation in his head, blindfold. But it was really incredible, and I can imagine that it would be scary for players that aren't of this caliber to sit across the table from him.
Without question. And just imagine that he's been retired for 11 years, and all of that intensity and energy that he brought to the game at his peak. He was formidable. And to sit across the board from him, you felt his intensity. And there we have the U.S. champion, Fabiano Caruana, who, by the way, was playing S-chess yesterday and Bug House as well. I was playing a little Bug House with Fabi. We were having a lot of fun. He was relaxing.
I will say that Nakamura looks like he really has come to play today. Yesterday, he seemed to treat the event kind of casually, no big deal. But I think now his attitude has shifted. You see him sitting at the board before anyone else, the way he was walking around. I think he understands that this is an important event for him. He wants to prove that he's the best Blitz player in the United States for sure. Clearly, he's number 2 in the world in the live rankings right now behind Magnus Carlsen. I think, though, that everyone loved this. The Twitterverse was crazy with talk about Blitz chess, how great it was, how much action. Everyone, there were something like 108,000 unique viewers watching this match from yesterday, watching the action, which just goes to show that this is just thrilling stuff, and more of these kind of events should happen in the future because the fans want it.
I
couldn't
totally agree
with you more, Maurice. Absolutely. Sorry, Jen.
I mean, this is a time to show your girlfriend, your husband, who doesn't play chess, to try to get them excited and see what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As you see the fans streaming in now, it is a Friday, and some kids in the audience should be in school.
In school.
Day off. Excuse me.
Day
I want to come. I want to come watch this stuff. So clearly, the players have enthralled everyone, and we just expect more of this fun stuff. This is just unbelievable chess.
The best thing is the best show in town. I was watching some of the Twitter comments, and one was like, "Thank God for chess because we get to see this." Now, by the way, in reference to your point about Nakamura, I don't believe him for a second when he says that he doesn't take this seriously. I think that's absolutely absurd. He wants to win this so bad.
Absolutely.
As soon as he found out that it was very unlikely that he would win the U.S. championship, he had this title on his mind. Nakamura, you can't believe every word he says in an interview.
Well, but if he was
Yes.
dead serious, totally serious, he would not have let Garry off the hook yesterday. Yesterday's flub by Garry when Garry let go off the piece. If Naka was so bent on winning this event at all costs, you know, if Magnus Carlsen had let go, he would have said, excuse me, you let go. That's it.
I think he thinks he's going to win anyway.
He had a different attitude about it. And, now I think, though, he's settled in and he wants to win this now. And it's a great position for him. He did not play well yesterday. Clearly, by his standards, what we've seen, he did not play great. And guess what? He's tied for first. What happens if he brings his A game today?
Well,
I think he'll run away with it.
What if he and Garry bring their A game? Then we're going to see some absolutely brilliant defense by Nakamura, some quick play, and of course, just sizzling openings and conceptions. But that's what Nakamura, I think, has that. You also see in Caruana just incredible defensive skills in
Yes,
Blitz.
Absolutely. No question about it, Jen. Well, all of these players are just, what can I say, the best of the best. And Garry, like you say, is analyzing, getting prepared, and Maurice and I will recall, of course, when Garry takes off his watch, he came in, which he has done earlier, he came to play. And when he put the watch on, it meant the game was over. And there they're off.
And it looks like he's playing a modern.
Perk defense. Wow, Garry, and it's a transpose to a King's Indian after this move C4.
Strange that Wesley didn't go for some other lines.
And it hasn't.
Bishop
It's
G4
Bishop
by
G4.
Garry, taking the position into original lines. This move, not the common move.
This
So
was a
different.
favorite opening. I used to play a favorite defense. I would play in this position knight c6. And my idea, of course, is to capture this knight on f3, followed by capturing the pawn on d4. And if they played the move d5, to do the same thing, to capture this knight and then to occupy the square d4. And knight d2.
That's an unusual move, absolutely, in this position.
Right out of the opening, we're getting something very, very different. Now, everybody and his brother plays e5 in this position with the idea that after d5, you drop back with a knight to d7 and you transpose into a King's Indian, where this knight on d2 is utterly misplaced. We'll see if that happens that way.
Of course, the bishop on g4 is not a happy camper. It doesn't want to trade itself off normally in the King's Indian. So you see there, after it was attacked, Garry dropped it back to d7. That's a bishop you want to retain in the King's Indian. But at some point, it looks like he's going to get in f5. Can he get it in without, well, it doesn't look as though he can get it in without developing his knight just yet. He might be able to play h6 and go for it. It would be nice gaining a tempo if he could play this move f5 without having to bring the knight out, castle, and then move the knight again and then get it. So that pawn, f7, f5 is the move that Garry's going to be looking for. And c5 already.
Whoa.
Instant c5.
c5.
With the idea that if you take, we can play knight c4, start ganging up on that e-pawn.
I love that move. Trying to throw Garry off right away in the opening, and Garry realizes it.
Yes,
Well, give me the pawn.
He's doing what I would, and play f6. Just throw down the challenge.
And
You're the one who
D6.
sacrificed the pawn. Let's see how it goes.
So now if we play d6, you just put you can just go knight
c8. Knight c8
I
looks
think you
fine.
gotta go knight c8, because if you go knight c6, we can take on c7 and play knight d6 check anyway.
No, I didn't need that strong, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
That might not be that
on
strong, because
C6.
at the king e7, your knight will have to leave.
And the knight will come back. So
Well,
Wesley,
I have b7 though. No?
I think Wesley's just going to play
B7,
bishop
I mean.
e3 and slow play it.
Yeah.
Like as a pawn sacrifice.
Right, and then we have d6 in the cards anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So.
But hold on a second. In this position, b5 is an idea. He has played d6 and knight drop back to c8. So we're seeing this critical line. d6, knight drop back, and now the move bishop to e3. That is an interesting variation. The point being that the knight on g8 cannot get in the game, and white is threatening the pawn on c5. The question is, what if b5 right now? Now he's played b6, being very solid. b5 didn't lead anywhere, but this move b6 after castles, white is way ahead in development. Black has to figure out how to unravel his pieces.
Well, it's very simple, Maurice. You just play knight h6 in such positions. You bring your knight to f7, and you quickly, and I mean quickly, get your king out of the center. And again, these pieces on the king side, white's pieces, the bishop on e3, bishop on e2, knight on f3, are not major actors in this type of structure where black is blockading with his pawns on e5 and c5. Personally, it's easier to play Wesley's position, but I actually like black's extra pawn.
And Garry's played the move bishop to c6.
Very
attacking
cagey.
the pawn.
I like that move too, attacking the pawn on e4, as well as now threatening the pawn on d6 3 times.
That's right, and stopping any kind of little ideas like queen d5 that we might have in the position.
Right.
So now
The engines are giving takes on c7 right now. After all, that pawn is hanging, and he has to take and capture back by Garry. And now the move b4, Wesley insisting on playing incredibly sharp chess on every move, and Garry shaking his head because Wesley will not let him develop any pieces without aggression on the board.
That's
and
right.
Now he just can't develop his knight because c5 is hanging, but if he takes on b4, then a rook will go to c1, and that is his plan. Wesley, on every move, it looks like Wesley's intent on opening up the game, playing gambit chess, and forcing Kasparov to think, and Kasparov boldly just taking the pawn anyway.
That's right. Well,
the capture did, in fact, occur, and now rook to c1. That he did not play knight e7 just yet. That move has not been played just yet.
So what kind of
what is Wesley's plan?
Well,
Simple. Keep that king in the center. That was why I wanted to go knight h6 and f7. Wesley is not letting Garry breathe. Every single move, he's throwing down a new challenge, a new sacrifice. Wesley's idea is to play queen b3.
And he's done that.
And knight e7, queen b3 is on the board, so you don't want to castle right now because of a horrific discovery by that knight.
Exactly.
The queen on the long diagonal, preventing the king from castling. How will he get out of the center?
That is
and
that
the
is
Indians,
the
by the way, are giving a huge edge to white right now, saying that white is crushing black by a full piece, according to the Indians, because the black king is stuck in the middle of the board. h6, that's not making any progress
H6?
in this position.
Well, how do we build up the position as white? We could just play rook to d1, or
rook to d1. I like that.
Just play rook d1, and at some point you got to be careful about us removing the knight from c4 and sticking a bishop on b5.
That is absolutely right. This position is huge for white. Full compensation for 2 pawns down. 2 pawns down.
And rook d1 was played.
But the question is, I'm trying to get into Gary's head. What was he thinking about with this move h6? He can't be thinking about playing f5, opening up the position to the better army.
Death.
No. So what was?
Well, he's played b5 here.
b5 now on the board. The Indians give that as totally lost.
Knight takes b5 and bishop b5.
Bishop b5. What is this about?
Wow.
More sacrifices. The Indians gave knight a5 as completely crushing, but this is bad as well. This is also bad. That c6 bishop.
We're threatening bishop c6 and queen e6 check.
What about just queen e6 right now as
exactly.
well? Everything is bad for him. He just played rook to b8, forcing the trade. It looks like queen e6 won't work right now, but there's got to be a death blow.
Well, you can take on c6 and then play queen e6
also.
But he's just played bishop a4, renewing the threat.
Wesley's playing incredible chess. That was the Indians' first
unbelievable chess by Wesley.
Choice. So far, gorgeous attacking game.
And he did it in
Blitz.
seconds.
It's just astonishing the way he's completely dismantling Kasparov in this game. He is playing just sacrificial chess. He's playing in the style of Tao. You're looking at this right now. Beautiful.
Fantastic game so far.
This is
and Garry
awesome.
I think Garry missed b4 because you could see as soon as the move b4 happened, he was already like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
It's queen b7. He played queen to b7 is
queen
on
to
the board.
Queen b7.
Oh my
not
goodness.
Rook b7.
Rook c6 is crushing.
And queen e6 check, yeah.
Rook c6 is just, if he finds that, this is the other game, which is not nearly as exciting
He's
as
going
this
to find rook c6.
Will he find it?
Check.
Rook c6. And bam! There it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wesley
So.
Playing one of the greatest
man.
Blitz games I've ever
and now
witnessed.
He's played bishop c5, and he's just threatening bishop takes c6.
This is like
bishop takes
Morphy
versus
the Duke.
This is unbelievable chess.
This is one of the greatest.
Gary knows it now. He's completely busted. What an amazing display by Wesley.
Wow.
And now taking on e7 and resigns. What are we seeing here? I mean, kudos to Wesley So. He just ripped Garry apart in that game. You can look at this game from just studying move by move, and Wesley instantly playing genius chess. Incredible.
Wow. Those of you who bet on Wesley in this match, who believed in the underdog, give yourselves a big pat on the back, because that game was the game of the ultimate Blitz so far.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in shock.
That game is one of the most amazing Blitz games I've ever seen in my life.
Hands down.
And let's take a look at the other game.
Like 3 minutes. Oh, by the way, there's another game?
Yeah.
Can we take
guys,
this?
I'm still in shock from what I just saw.
All right, let's take a look at this now, though, at least, and try to do our jobs after seeing that. It's just unbelievable. But let's get to the other game where this is slightly better for black, according to the Indians. This position is slightly better for black. That c4 break in, and there's Hikaru, and way ahead on the clock is Hikaru. So clearly the leaders have come to play as well. Caruana with only 34 seconds left. Hikaru with 2 minutes, but what is he thinking about right now?
HG6 is an automatic.
I mean, what was that about? He's been so long on that move?
No.
I mean, that was shocking.
And now he's
Guys,
just played.
I'm in shock. I really am. I need to recover from
Well,
what
let's
I just
try.
saw.
Let's try to get this going. Right now, we've got 2 minutes to finish this game, so we'll just keep focused
adjust.
on this one.
I can't
So now,
adjust.
Right now, the
after
threat looks like black is still slight edge. The Indians are giving the move
C3 with the idea of after
and now
rook
rook
D4,
takes
rook
on
B8.
D4 and rook B8, and
Yeah.
there it is. That has occurred. Certainly Nakamura with a strong pawn on C3. How do you fight against it? The Indians
Rook
give
A2
rook
is-
A2 as only.
Exactly. You got to stop rook B2, which would absolutely overwhelm. And
And that,
Instead,
rook A2
it
you
looks
played
like
rook
rook A3 was played. Yeah.
Rook A2,
Rook A3.
rook A2 had a strange sacrifice, queen A2, that doesn't seem like it worked because of rook D6 at the end. I mean, rook D8 at the end.
Right.
So queen A2, and then rook D8. But now he's allowed the move rook B2. Maybe he overlooked that tactic. Rook B2, queen C1.
I
And
apologize.
now the game is terrible for white. I mean, look at this position.
hold on, this F2 pawn looks like a real.
What do you do about queen B6?
Exactly.
Queen B6 is lights out. Queen B6 is busted. Queen B6 just attacking the rook, preparing to get the C pawn down the board. Is not only F2, but being able to play C2 as well. So this,
it's white's.
he didn't find it. He played
What
rook
did he do?
B3 instead. He played rook to
Rook
B3.
B3.
Did not find this move. And he played rook B3
White
and rook
is
to
back in
A4.
White is back into the game.
White is
after
back.
that.
White is back. Nakamura missed queen B6, which would have been winning on the spot.
Rook A4 with the idea now of playing rook C4, trying to
Getting
get behind
the-
the passed pawn, a very thematic idea.
Yeah, the game has
Absolutely,
shifted
Jen.
dramatically. The game has shifted
Absolutely.
dramatically. He went from losing to now white is okay.
And
His
look at the
defense is going to
times.
stand up. And the time when he was up so much, Nakamura, how is it that he's now almost even?
That is an amazing and
What a
So now
turnaround. And now
after-
we're back to B2, but there he is. He knows
And then we got
exactly
rook
what to
C4,
do.
rook C4, rook C4,
Yeah,
and
there goes-
queen B6 kind of putting pressure on the
D4 is an automatic.
D4,
That's
shut
more.
down.
D4.
Thanks for the pawn. Nakamura shaking his head there. He
He's
realizes he's
missed
messed up,
everything.
and he's had to play this move to equalize the game. And he still has a pass A pawn, however. But queen D4, actually, no. Queen D4, he loses his A pawn.
with queen C8
Draw.
check. That's
No, it's got to be a
right.
draw.
It's
Queen
gotta be
D4
a
is a
draw.
must. He cannot try to play this through.
And he
did
has
go
played
for
it.
and he's now just expecting it to be a draw. He's taken on E4.
That's right.
And I think they both realize this is just a dead draw now. No reason to keep playing.
So guess
Pawn on.
what?
It's just making moves. He's still making moves, though. There's an offer of a trade, another move, and it looks like Nakamura trying to play quickly, even though he's worse on the clock.
Nakamura is a bit frustrated, I think, that he didn't win this game. He came to play better today and maybe not too pleased with
Wait a
this
minute,
game.
guys. Queen F6. Somebody may be overpressing themselves.
No, it's still a draw
Yeah,
for sure. This
you're
is
right.
just
No,
even.
G5. That's equal. Why are the players? This
Well,
is such a dead draw.
They're still going. They're still making moves. It doesn't make any sense waiting for some kind of blunder. But there it
yeah,
is.
finally.
And that means Wesley So in the clear lead of the Ultimate Blitz St. Louis.
and he was
Sorry,
so-
Wesley, we love you, but most of us couldn't have
He was so
thought
deserving. That was phenomenal.
That was amazing. I mean, I meant, of course, that nobody believed that he would be leading the tournament at this stage. This was
Only his most
ardent fans who
fans.
know his blitz skills.
Yeah.
I mean, playing, like you mentioned it, Morphe, with those double pins.
He's everywhere, cross and sacrifice after sacrifice. Literally, he didn't give Garry a chance to breathe. Maurice, you got to show some highlights of that incredible, incredible game.
Absolutely. The sacrifices just abounded in this game. First of all, it started with this move C5. This is an idea you see sometimes in the King's Indian thematic idea. Garry took the first pawn, the knight C4, now the move F6, compromising this bishop somewhat. Now D6, trying to break through, and then bishop to E3. After B6, castles, bishop to C6 by Garry. Look at this sequence. Takes, and B4. You want another pawn? You can have it. So that's pawn number one. Now pawn number two. Garry accepted, tried to develop, but queen B3, stopping him from castling, and Gary's going to regret this move. H6, although he's definitely worse already. Rook D1, B5. Let's sacrifice again. So it was two pawns. Now it's a knight. And after FE5, bishop takes B5, rook B8, bishop A4. Well, we saw the finish here, rook C6, and then queen E6, 97, bishop C5. Just gorgeous chess. Okay, we're going to try to get this out of our minds. And Garry, look at his reaction as these moves were cascading down like bombs from on high, the way he was hit. And here's the score. Wesley So, 6 points in clear first place ahead of Hikaru Nakamura, with Garry at 4.5 and Caruana at 4. Well, there's still Wait a minute, 8 rounds to go? Can the commentators take it? And they have started.
Can the fans take it? And yes, we are underway. Garry Kasparov against Hikaru Nakamura. Let's take a look at that game. The stunner in last game, of course, B4, just dazzling move by So.
And Gary's back to the Scotch. He's played this in day one, so the players have been well warned that Garry is looking for open, dynamic, forcing chess.
Theoretical lines as well, except for last game, the only game that he didn't go for like a main line theory. He ended up getting absolutely crushed. So back to playing main lines.
He didn't fall back to his usual King's Indian defense. Instead, he played this offbeat system with knight c6, and it just backfired in dramatic fashion.
And they battled in this
queen takes e4
game last round as well.
Yeah, this is a major pawn sacrifice, theoretical pawn sacrifice that Garry trailblazed. He usually plays knight d2 and follows through with ideas of knight to b5.
And both of those moves have happened. Knight d2, queen back to g6, and now knight b5.
Exactly.
And that pawn on c7 is awkward. You have to either defend it with your king or just ditch it, and Nakamura has decided to ditch it.
In Blitz, it's such a big advantage to have the initiative. It's much, much harder to play defensive chess. And look at this move. Bishop h5. It's trying to prove that that queen is awkwardly placed, but it's a very unusual way of attacking from the side like that. I mean, move like bishop d3 is automatic, but bishop h5.
Nakamura got his queen trapped a bunch of times yesterday, so Garry might be trying to twist the knife to let off.
It was only twice.
Garry was blundering knights, but Naka was hanging queens.
In 2 games. By the way, in the other game, Wesley So is already ahead by a pawn in a line that is a typical sacrifice in the opening. Black is okay here, looking for counterplay. So though up a pawn, for the moment, Black's pieces are dynamically placed. Look at White's pieces, the rook on a1, the bishop on c1. Those 2 pieces not working at all, while Black already has complete development. And White will have to consolidate this position. It also has to fight against the light square bishop. Black has the 2 bishops, but in particular, that light square bishop is where he has the edge. And we see this trade here. Now the move knight to d5, hoping to see a trade. I don't think you're going to see that happen. That queen is going to move, and it did. Queen to e5. In this position, challenging that knight and saying, I've got the 2 bishops, and now bishop to e3, looking to trade. If he could get bishop takes e3 on the board, then he should be okay, White. He is up a pawn after all.
Absolutely. Good move by Wesley, and he's playing really well. I mean, look at the times as well. Almost a minute ahead on the clock. That's very significant, and he's gotten rid of the 2 bishops. So slowly but surely, Fabi's dynamic counterplay that he's counting on for the pawn sacrifice is ebbing away.
He does seem solid. Take a look back at the game with Kasparov.
Absolutely.
He has played a move f4 in the position. f4 just preceded this sequence. Right here, he played f4, which is a sacrifice because bishop e3 was in the position and queen e5 would have been possible, but it looks as though Garry had some play in that line with knight to c4 at the back end of that, on the tail end of that, I should say.
Right.
But so instead he played the move knight to g4 to Nakamura, forcing, well, Garry hasn't moved yet. He was surprised by this move, and the Indians are saying you have to take on g4 and go into an endgame. Pretty much the only way to play the position. Everything else is losing. He must trade on g4. I don't think Garry felt like he wanted to do that, to go into this ending with takes on g4, but this is what the Indians are saying. He'd have a decent position just because of a sequence like the one you're describing there.
Yeah,
That's
but
right.
that knight on c7 makes a poor impression now. It's sort of like, why are we there in the first place? I mean, let's find a better square, like the d6 square.
Well, we could also move it back to b5, attack a7, and play to d6.
It does look, though, that in a very theoretical battle, Hikaru is holding his own.
And we are seeing these moves on the board: bishop g4, queen g4 being played. Now, after bishop c5, pawn c5. Do we have to play knight e4 right away, or maybe we should try to?
Sorry, I got auto on my board, so let me just flash back and forth. By the way, that game of Wesley So looks like he's really playing gorgeous chess with that knight on e3, very, very solid. and a pawn to the good. So here we go. Do we want to play queen e1? I'm not a big fan of queen e1. I think you got to take that bishop.
And Garry
played knight c4.
Garry spent a long time realizing that his compensation is really in the end game. He has no choice here. He could trade queens. He's offering a trade here. He's not declining it in any way. It looks as though the trade must be effectuated after this move. He could also move his queen back, apparently, back to d7. The engines give, and he has done so. Queen back to d7, avoiding the trade. I think Garry probably is happy not to see a trade, but at the same time, this move might have come as a surprise to him, and he's at 2:18 on the clock. Still okay, still within bounds, but he's going to have to find an idea quickly. It looks like Nakamura is playing at a nice pace.
Well, no, Nakamura could trade queens here now with bishop takes c5 if he wants, because you can't take on c7 because we have bishop takes d6, and then after queen takes c4, the knight on e7 hangs.
Right.
So if I play bishop c5, you're compelled to take with the pawn, and then I can trade queens anyhow.
Well, Gary's not going to be very happy with the outcome of that because the knight on c, and he's done what you suggested, Jen, but that knight on c7 is looking out of place.
That's right, because this is actually worse than the
Queen
variation
trade.
we were looking at before, because we don't have access to that b5 square immediately, but we do have the option of playing knight e5, trying to tickle the bishop on d7 and then extricating our knight.
Exactly.
By the way, as this goes into an endgame in the other game, Wesley So sacrificed back the pawn on the b2 square. He did a sacrifice, and Black took it. He said, I'll take it. In this position, take a look at what happened here. He played this move, queen to e5, just a couple of moves ago. He played queen to e5. So, well, let's go fast forward here. Queen b5, queen there, right there. He gave up this pawn on b2, and Fabi said, I'll take it. And now this sequence, and Black is perfectly fine now. Black is happy with the shattered structure.
Yeah.
Black is very happy with the structure, and suddenly Wesley's got his head in his hands. He realized
what did
he went
do?
from having an advantage up a pawn to giving the pawn back, and suddenly he has nothing. And look at his knight being dominated by the bishop on e6. You expect to move g6 soon by Black, and then the a2 pawn could come under fire as well. Wesley So did not manage his position very well, and he's hesitating, unlike in the last game. This is what's so crazy about Blitz. You could play one great game, but hey, the next game, you could lay an egg. And right now, he's not playing fantastically, but he's still trying to fight as he trades queens and plays rook to b5.
Wow. That game is heating up. Definitely the game with Hikaru has tapered off, I mean, with all of these trades. But Garry did a very interesting maneuver here. In this moment, I had expected Garry to play rook on f1 to e1. Instead, he attacked the bishop.
And then he played f5.
Yes, putting the bishop to the f5 square and g4 square, and just had played f5. And guess what? He's got a trap of the bishop in mind. Interesting little subtle nuance
And it looks
there.
like Nakamura's made a move. He's just attacked the knight on c7.
And that's going to be nice for Garry. Gary's going to leap out of that c7 square.
And now he's starting knight d6.
Exactly.
Yes,
finding
this game
a
is
much better outpost on d6 than on c7.
Gary's absolutely outplaying him right now.
Forced to play f6
Beautiful
to extricate
play.
his bishop. Then now after h3, bishop h5, we can stick our bishop on f7. But boy, does it look like some things are hanging in the air here for...
Well, I would definitely plant that knight on d6, and then instead of playing the move h3, Jen, I'll go for rook e4 and g4. I want to hunt down that bishop and take it, because that bishop could find a beautiful outpost on d5.
Well, it's not easy, though. You're right what you just said. Those knights, the white knights, look like they're both fighting for the same square on d6, the idea of the superfluous knight. And so these knights, after this move, as he has played the knight into d6, and now rook to c7, guarding the position. But that knight on c4, it's stable for now, but sooner or later he's going to have to play a move like a4. The difficulty in this position is how to improve the position as white. What are your next three moves?
Okay.
We can play knight e3 and...
he has played a4.
Yes,
he just played
a4 is a beautiful move, a highly strategical move to prevent any b5 And Bishop has
dropped
dropped
back, rook e4.
Rook e4. I'd expected rook e4, a4, by the way, but he's just transposed.
And now rook to d8.
Because Hikaru's got to get rid of that knight. That knight is just
two rooks doubled, and now both sides with doubled rooks, and there goes one knight off the board as Garry has ripped that off. And Garry, with only 34 seconds left on the clock, his time is ticking down.
50 seconds
Actually, make
for
that
Naka.
36 seconds left. 50 seconds left for Nakamura. White looks optically great, but how does he improve, and what does Black do? They both look like there's not much to do in the position for either side.
Maybe rook e6 and a5 and a6.
Wow, a6. That's a big move.
This is a big surprise.
a5 just kills the queen side now. I don't like that move a6 at all by Hikaru, but
Following up with g6, which seems to weaken another pawn.
Well, he had to do something, and now the rook over to f1, eyeballing the king. g5 ideas could come. He's traded, and he's taken with the rook. And now rook to d5, trying to trade. Garry said, backing the rook up, rook d5, rook back to f3, and now king to g7. And how does White do it? A rook now on e6.
e6, yeah. We've been trying to play that move for a while.
Exactly, Jen.
And now
this is getting heated.
But now the knight can come back into d6.
Seconds.
Isn't that going to be crushing when we get our knight back?
Knight's going to be...
Or e3.
And jump to
d6 to
f5.
f5 or e3 to f5.
He's played h3. Knight e3, rook d2 check. He didn't want to see right away, but that looked like a nice idea.
King g3 first.
Can Garry do it with only 20 seconds on the clock? Naka with 21,
to save ourselves with knight
and now
e5
knight
at
back
any point?
attacking the rook. Rook has to leave. He can't hesitate. He's got to play quick moves. Both sides have to start playing quick moves. The knight back to c6. And now they're repeating.
Repeating once, trying to gain a little time, but now he's played
check.
rook e7 check.
He's playing for the win.
That's right.
Gary declined the repetition.
He looked at the
Rook
clock
e7.
there.
And
Rook e7, rook f7.
King g3. Get that king up. He's done it. Very, very nice.
And that knight on c4, we hope Garry doesn't blunder that knight. You got to be careful. You know what happened yesterday.
Don't jinx him.
Rook over.
And by the way, knight e3 to f5 is looming large.
But
That's why I'm wondering about knight e5
and he stopped.
And now a forced trade. A forced trade after rook to d8. And now the knight in the position, and look at the clocks.
Now knight d6, same idea. We're threatening knight f5.
I thought he was going to play rook f5. Why didn't he go?
Only 10. Make that. His time is ticking down. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. He needs a move. King back to f8. And Garry staying ahead on the clock.
Knight
now knight
f5,
f5, knight c6.
monster
His rook
square.
down into the position. Now a capture of pawns, and now Naka is going fast. H4, pass pawn, knight c4. But White, will Black have a chance as well? He's brought his knight back.
No way. That pawn is on h6.
Whoa,
H6.
this looks awful.
There's checkmating patterns.
But he can't find the mate because of that knight. And knight back to g6.
Oh my
And
goodness.
Naka with only 5 seconds, but he's just playing so quickly. Garry repeating moves and now taking a pawn. Rook to d2. Again repeating moves.
But he's not getting any extra time.
What just happened? What just happened? Oh, it looks like
Gary
just
forgot to hit the clock.
Well, they're going so fast.
Exactly.
Gary
And
was
C4.
15
He's
seconds
another
now.
pawn, but
What
so
is
is
going
Nakamura.
on?
Getting behind the pawn, looking nervous.
Now
and
both sides with this pawn. How does Garry make any
And now
progress here? He's repeating moves. He doesn't see how he's played c6. What was wrong with? Why did he allow this pawn to go another step? A2. Oh, he's queening, so he's nothing worried about. Nakamura is totally under control, knowing he had it. Amazing.
Oh, I think Gary had some great chances, and I'll just tell you what I think was as soon as the game gets registered on my screen. First of all, let's go to the Wesley So game, and I'll show you what I think was a critical moment. Hikaru getting lucky in this second round of the challenge.
But a big result the other game. Wesley So won the game. He won the game.
Oh my goodness.
Incredibly.
Wow.
Wesley won
So.
yet again, putting some distance between himself and the rest of the field as Caruana is tumbling down, now having lost what seems like 4 losses in 5 games. He lost 3 in a row yesterday to close out the event. Then he drew this first game, and he's lost again. So his chances are looking completely dismal right now, but it's Wesley So rising like a phoenix. I mean, he had 2 games that he lost in the beginning of the tournament, But look what this comeback he's made.
Wow.
And now at 7 points, the only player remotely close to him is Nakamura at 6, Garry Kasparov at 5, and Fabiano Caruana many points behind, but there's 7 rounds to go.
Wow.
That's right, but Wesley So
Action
just astonishing us indeed.
It is an incredible play. Wow. Oh, now you get the post-mortem analysis.
No, the main line is knight c6.
Just go back.
Actually, bishop is control also. That's it.
That's tricky, yeah.
Bishop takes f7. This is,
Yeah.
in Blitz is tricky,
Yeah.
but it's.
Okay.
Well, Gary looks like he's
Just
enjoying himself. Maybe
Without
you should play
question.
a little bit more often, Gary. Some of your fans online would be quite excited about that.
Exactly. I just wanted to say that here is where I thought that Gary could have really taken control with a very, very nice move. Just at this moment, if he had played rook f5, forcing this knight to the e6 square, where really it's only playing a defensive role, then switched his rook over, these two dominating pieces, the knight on c4 and the rook on d5, followed by h4, this knight will be perpetually frozen. That was key.
And in Blitz, knights rule. Everyone knows that. Knights are the thing. We've seen Gary drop knights yesterday. Today, look what Wesley did with his knight. In this position, it was a dead-even position. Fabiano with the draw in hand if he plays correctly, but he played this disastrous move, king to d8, allowing the knight to hop in. And now you can't move your king anywhere. If you go here, check the knight fork, and if you attack his rook, thanks for your rook, and the knight is guarding the rook. So even number 2 players in the world fall for knight forks. Those knights are tricky in Blitz, and they've started again, so we will see how this round 3 transpires today.
That's right. We've got Gary against Fabiano, and our leader, So, facing off against Nakamura. This will be a big test.
Absolutely.
It looks like we've got a Grunfeld on tap.
Absolutely. And if Wesley keeps the form that he's produced in these first 2 games, this tournament could be over. I mean, he has been amazing.
But you know, with 7 rounds to go, you could easily drop 3 in a row in Blitz. So don't count your lucky stars just
As
yet.
has the U.S. champion.
Has done so already. Wesley himself dropped 2, so he knows you can lose games. Nakamura dropped games as well. Everybody can lose in this. It's Blitz.
And just-
that's why we love it so much, because there's so many storylines that keep happening as you play the games.
And
That's
just
right.
look how quickly Wesley has played. I mean, he just knows this variation of the Grunfeld inside and out. It's like Hikaru is so used to being ahead on the clock. And look already, just, 6 seconds.
And let's
right,
talk about this this opening. I mean, f3 Grunfeld is a line where a lot of times when you play 3f3, people play the Grunfeld who wouldn't normally play the Grunfeld. So sometimes they're planning on playing the King's Indian, but against this variation,
It'll switch.
and with the castling on opposite sides, who do you prefer playing? Because it looks like White's getting a quick attack, but at the same time doesn't have a lot of minors to work with yet.
Yeah, this is a very complicated line. I've played it as white, not as black, and I've recognized that the counterplay, especially based on this move e6, is annoying because once this bishop gets out, either to the e6 or even to the f5 square, it's White's king that comes under heavy pressure. And although it's a little bit awkward, we can see that this move, rook d7 by Wesley, isn't ideal.
No, he played bishop f4 actually, just tickling the
provoke-
pawn on c7, and then after rook d7, he
Then went for bishop h6. A lot of what White is trying to do is based on a kingside attack, based on the move h5, and look at the...
But we see a quick trade of queens actually here. So Wesley didn't want to see the move h5 and all of the forces coming towards his king, so he played this queen f8 move. That's very important when you're getting attacked. You got to look for ways to bring your queen into the defense.
That's absolutely.
Because you know what, if he doesn't trade queens, the queen can stick on g7 and it's going to be quite powerful from that square.
And a big development in the other game, Garry Kasparov playing his Sicilian, trademark Sicilian against Fabiano Caruana. And look what Caruana did. He said, here I come. I'm going to go down the board. Take a look at this position.
Yeah.
He allowed the move b4 and knight a4. He did not have to allow it a couple of moves ago, right? Just before this, if you go back just a couple of moves, he had the option after the move b5 to play a3 to slow down the counterplay. Of course, that allows rook b8 and the possible b4 anyway. So he said, you know what, I'm going to ignore it. But the minus of that is allowing this move, b4, and knight a4, and now the move e5, which Garry did playing like, I think he knows a thing or two about the Sicilian defense. Bishop back to e3, now takes on f4, and knight to e5, a knight ensconced in the e5 square, and black has completely shut down White's demonstrations on the king side. He has an isolated knight on a4 does White. Definitely better for black in this position.
Knight on the rim is dim. It's an old chess expression that's still valid after 100 years.
Well,
Something
Wesley
stayed
So
the
is
same.
trying to argue differently in his game. Right now, he's got a knight on a5. And I just love this piece, the knights. I used to not care what piece I had, but now the knight is certainly my favorite piece. It's just clear. It has all of these magical powers, it looks like, for humans to try to understand. And here comes this knight onto d5. The Indians are saying this position is slightly better for White, but not by much. So Wesley would be happy with the draw, I think, with the black pieces here.
And why is it only slightly better for White?
This last
Isn't he a
move.
pawn up? After
He
rook
is a
takes
pawn up,
d5?
but after b5, here comes the bishop, then the rook to d8. That d6 pawn doesn't look like it will stay too long, but he has to be careful about this.
Wait,
this move,
It's
rook h8 at some point.
Yes, exactly. That's lurking.
So a4.
Whoa, a4. Oh boy, I'm not a big fan of the a4 move, Maurice. Not with the king, with so many pieces hovering around the king. I thought Hikaru was going to get on his pony and giddy up and get that knight over to c3. He hasn't played it. He played a4.
And then he's moved his rook into the game via the h4 square.
Whoa, what did Wesley play in reaction to a4, by the way? Oh, he played king g7. I see. Interesting.
And the Indians think this position is dead equal, actually. Not
Bishop b7, getting
really
that
great
bishop into the
chances
game.
here.
Absolutely. And I just don't see how Hikaru is going to hang on to his d6 pawn.
Yeah, this one is leaning towards a draw, guys. Let's switch back to the other game, which is full of fight. We see Garry Kasparov with a better position here as black. And the Indians like the idea of f6 right now. After this move, f6, blasting open the file, the f file. It's a very principled move. If you're going to give up this shield around your king, you know you might give black some white some chances. And Garry decided not to do it with f6. Instead, he's playing the move bishop to g4. Still better for him here. This move, bishop g4. Black's pieces are just great in the main position. This is the other game. Let's get back to the Garry game. Bishop to g4 on the board now, attacking a rook.
Classic Sicilian position.
But this is the kind of Sicilian position you have where you, as black, you feel like, I'm comfortable. Thanks a lot. You have no real attack going. Now I just need to make some moves. And Garry playing directly now with the move rook fc8. Also a good line. Indians didn't think that, again, was the best way to prosecute the advantage in this position. But you can't complain. Black's position looks really good. White's attack looks like it's going nowhere. His bishop on g2. What's that piece about? The bishop on f4, the knight on a4. White's going to have to be careful. b3, a solid move.
You got to watch out for knight c4. That's the problem.
But just a quick question. Why didn't he just play bishop g4, bishop d7 earlier and just go after the knight and capture that knight on a4?
And then stick a knight on c4.
Exactly.
That does look like it would have been quite promising.
You know, the Indians are giving this unbelievable move right now, knight to c4.
That's what I like as well.
Right now, knight
Right
to
now.
c4.
And if you go queen a4.
No, queen c4. Just
No,
take.
really?
Just take back is what it's giving, because a2 is hanging and the knight, and he played queen a5 instead. That's a really crazy idea with knight c4. But queen a5 is now on the board with the idea of knight c4.
That's right,
Looks
it's
like
b3.
reinforcing it. So smarter, simple human play, what he just did. Meantime, this game is closing in on a draw. This one here, queen to a5, a rich position. But Garry's only problem, he's down a minute plus on the clock.
That's right. Knight c4 looks like a big time move coming up here.
By the way, I think a nice idea, along with the queen a5, is to just stop bishop takes e5. I can recapture with the queen in this case. And I think this move, queen a5, is really annoying to Fabiano because he has to look out for the bishop d7 and queen takes a2. I think king b1 is box.
Wait,
Actually,
what about
no,
bishop
bishop
e5 and queen d4
Bishop
or something?
h3. Bishop h3 stopping the bishop d7 idea is what the engines are giving, but that's a tricky move to find. If he finds it, it'll be fantastic. Wow, look at that. He found the move. Beautiful play by the U.S. champion. He realized what the main danger was, and now he stopped Kasparov's attack. What a great move to find in a situation like this when you can't move the knight, by the way, to c4 because of rook d5 always on the board. So great play by Caruana.
Yeah, I just did a couple of moves there that Garry, I think, really frittered away his advantage by not playing that move, bishop d7. And no question about it, Fabi's back in this game.
And now h5.
h5 trying to get his own game going. He's angling to play g6. Knight
And
c4.
Yes, h5 was a mistake. h5, he should have taken the bishop on c4. Now suddenly knight c4, bang down on the board because the bishop is guarding the d5 pawn, by the way. He couldn't just ignore what was happening on the other side. Black still had initiative. h5 was a slip. And this is trouble for Fabiano now. He has to play accurately or he will get in trouble. He's played the move rook to e2.
And can Garry do a crazy idea of like knight a on a very good day? If he could go knight a3 to b5
and he's
to
just
c3.
taking on g5, just snapped off the pawn.
He just snapped it. It's a free pawn. It's a pawn. Why not? Thank you very much.
And again, I just wanted to illustrate that. Wouldn't that be a nice dance with the pony to get the knight to the c3 square, and then it's just checkmate to white's king. So there's that lurking strategic threat of dancing around with the prancing with the knight, and Fabi pawn down under pressure.
That's right. He's going to need to find some way to get counterplay here, but it's so tough because his rook on e2 now is so awkwardly placed too.
Sorry, guys.
And he's just taken
a big
on c4.
alert. A big alert.
did
Queen
he do?
e5. Queen e5 is a huge threat. I hadn't realized just how strong that threat was. And he took the knight on c4, wrecking his queenside pawn structure. I cannot
Queen e5 is still possible.
And bishop. Well, Garry instead played bishop takes c4, and now bishop takes g5, queen takes g5.
Check.
That's right.
Oh, this is
And
hope.
rook
This is
e3,
over.
Rook e3,
Fabi.
all your pieces
No,
are
it
hidden.
is- it
We
is-
can just snap off a pawn on
Guys,
e2.
you gotta
Wait a minute,
count.
hold on.
He's up a piece right now. Is
He's up a
Caruana?
piece.
It
How
is
did
not
that
over.
happen?
It
How
is
did
not
that
over.
happen?
He did not. Garry did not take
Bishop
back
to-
any pieces in this position after he took on c4.
He didn't take on a4.
He did not take on a4
So why
at
not
any
take-
point. So he is currently down a piece, although he has compensation according to the engine,
Yeah, what's
which
wrong
is
with
very
that?
hard to see right now. He is still down a piece in this position. Right now, the engines give b3 as the best move. Let's fast forward to
Let's
the
see what he
current
played,
position.
yes.
And he has to play b3.
He played
well,
bishop to d3. And-
Whoa.
And
He's
c8.
forgot his rook is
His
hanging.
rook is
C8
hanging
is
on
hanging,
c8.
yeah.
Yeah.
His rook is hanging.
He's
The
made
engines give this.
Garry Kasparov.
And
Did
yeah,
Caruana
didn't take
miss
it.
He didn't take it?
He didn't take it.
no, he probably thought that after
And rook
Queen.
takes c2. It's over.
rook takes c2.
Oh my goodness.
It's over now. He's busted his Caruana.
Absolutely.
If Garry finds all the moves, though, he has only 23 seconds. Fabi with only 14 seconds. This is a disastrous turn for, and there it is.
B3.
Kasparov did find the right move there, and now he just has to giddy up and find mating ideas. There he goes. They're blitzing now.
Oh my goodness.
The evaluation just changing quickly as they're both in serious time pressure, but still, Garry's collecting food on every move. He's now up a full exchange. It looks like.
Yeah.
No, he actually has
Yeah.
two pieces for the rook, but an open
the
king
is
to hunt.
completely exposed.
Wow. This
And now
game-
And,
H5.
and about 1,000,000 pawns.
Yeah.
and an exchange of
H5.
queens,
Oh,
but
that's
not
a
gonna be
killer
good.
There's
move.
too many pawns.
H4.
Too many pawns. There
Oh.
it goes. As Garry wins the game. That was not the most accurate game of chess you'll ever see. But Kasparov with the win, keeping his winning chances in the tournament alive, while Fabi is just way out of it, having lost 5 out of 6.
And let's see how our tournament leader, Wesley So, is faring against one of the greatest blitz players in the world, Hikaru Nakamura. A pawn up.
Yeah, Wesley mismanaged this position, but he still has some drawing chances here.
4 rook endings are so difficult to play. And with so little time,
Yes, he's got half as much time as Nakamura. Yeah, this is not going to be an easy defense for him.
somehow trying to trade off rooks is Nakamura and establish a winning ending. If Nakamura wins this game, he will be tied for first again with Wesley. So there goes that C pawn, and Wesley not coming up with a convincing way to corral that pawn.
Not at all.
No, that's right.
And now he's
time is ticking
just-
down.
I
think
He's
it's
got
over.
5
It's
seconds.
over. It is over. He
I
looks
think that
lost.
Absolutely. He's missed after King C5. He had anticipated Rook C1 check, but there's Rook C4. So this just didn't work for Wesley at all. And this
now we're
is
going to see.
resigns
Now we're
after
going to see
King.
a little bridge built.
Yeah, well, he's just
Absolutely.
Rook D8 is about to come.
That's
and
it.
There it is.
That's it.
A beautiful game. And guess what, guys?
They're tied for first.
They're tied.
They're tied for first.
How did we
It
start?
wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty the way Wesley handled himself. It should have been equal. Wesley had a great position to solidify the game, but you know how Naka is. He starts putting pressure on you. And so a victory against Wesley So, the third game of this round?
That's
the
right.
third game of this round.
We're done with the round
So
robin.
we're done with the round robin. And now checking with Tony Rich. So now once again, they started the day tied for first. They're once again tied for first. And they're the clear leaders right now at 7 points each. But Garry Kasparov with that win, he's lurking. He's lurking, keeping himself close while Fabiano Caruana, his hopes are fading fast.
Gaining some distance here, Wesley So and Nakamura. Remember when they came into the round, only half a point lead over Garry and 1.5 over Caruana, whereas now full point over Garry, and Caruana is going to have to win a lot of games to get back into this ultimate challenge.
Absolutely, Jennifer. But guess what? 6 games to go. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back for the next round. This is
Where
so
Garry faces his nemesis Wesley So again. Will
That's
he
right.
be able to overcome Wesley finally, as Wesley has had his measure in this round, in this whole tournament so far?
By
That's
the way,
right. He's won 3 games against Garry. At least, right? Was it 4 or 3? It's definitely 3. The 2 nights and then the game today.
Right.
Yeah, just an incredible. Can you imagine Wesley So winning so many times against Garry Kasparov? Just a dream
And
come
no
true.
luck this time. No luck.
Oh, that was so
That was
beautiful.
brilliant.
I think that makes up for the other 2. And we will be right back with more from the Ultimate Blitz Challenge.
I'm Mike Matheny, manager of the Cardinals and chess fanatic. At the world-renowned Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis, across from the World Chess Hall of Fame, St. Louis' status as the chess capital of the nation is on full display. With a welcoming environment and scholastic outreach program that works with over 100 schools, our goal is to teach, play, and promote the sport. So whether you've played for years or never before, we invite you to experience all chess has to offer.
You could fly to Venice or Paris or even Copenhagen. You could fly all over the world. But why? When you could just come to St. Louis. Your trip begins at ExploreSt.Louis.com.
Hey, and we're back at the St. Louis Chess Club for the next quad here in the Ultimate Blitz Challenge. Now, this time, Garry Kasparov getting white against Wesley So. Wesley So having played a marvelous blitz game.
Phenomenal.
Best blitz game we've
Ever.
seen. Yeah,
I feel like a kid in a candy store. Just my eyes are so big watching these great players do their thing.
And as
it's
proud-
just been fantastic.
As proud as Garry was of his game against Wesley in round 1 yesterday, he'd be even prouder if he played the game that Wesley defeated him today. That was really amazing. He's got revenge on his mind as this player seems to be knocking him off since that early victory, game after game after game. The first 2 were blunders, but last game, there were no blunders. It was just spectacular chess.
starting with that gorgeous B4. Now, remember when Garry was white against Wesley last time? He played a dazzling game. It was a Sicilian where he played that B3 line. That was the line where he got his knight on C8 and D6 and blundered, unfortunately,
Yes.
to ruin it.
Exactly.
But this time, he hasn't played the Sicilian.
It looks like he's going to go for a Catalan-ready style of play by Garry Kasparov, and he's done it B3.
So strange that he's choosing Wesley as the one opponent that he's straying from theory against. You know, against Nakamura and Fabi, he's kind of staying with theory. But
Right.
in this game, and the first one he played against Wesley today, playing some more obscure openings.
Well,
And the double fianchetto, he
Keto.
played with G3, and now the move D4.
by Wesley, D4.
That's a serious move, D4. Having already played the move E6, you'll have to support this pawn on C4, but he's played knight to, on D4, he's played knight to C6, and black is down a tempo in this line by playing the move E6 and then E5, but Wesley insisting that it won't be a problem for him. He's now played bishop to C5, he's looking to castle quickly. Can white take advantage of this move order?
Yeah, well, it's a great Benoni position.
And I thought that would be the only way, what he just did with B4, this move, because if you capture it with the bishop, then knight takes on E5 is in tap. Bishop takes allows knight takes. We will probably see it, though. It doesn't seem as, well, he can also play knight takes now and just allow knight takes, but white will have traded off his B pawn for the E pawn. That's the cost of the tempo in this position, and Wesley now pausing as B4 is on the board. What to do about this particular move, and he's played knight takes, acquiescing to the fact that his E pawn had to go. That's a good trade for white.
That's right.
Absolutely,
You never want to give
without
up.
question. A center pawn for the flank pawn, especially the B pawn.
By the way, B4 has been the move of the Ultimate Blitz so far. Remember when Nakamura played it in a position where he otherwise would have been getting smashed by Garry? Really nice B4 move.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, Wesley. And now again, another B4.
Well, look at this positional move. Kasparov played. He played A3. Very nice move, sending the knight off to the side of the board. That knight just completely out of play right now. So the question is, how does Kasparov take advantage of this situation? And he's brought his knight down to the knight over to the D2 square, and after rook D8, just dropping his knight back. And he feels pretty good about this particular position as white. It's Benko-style compensation, and that D pawn, it's going to need some help.
Without question, that was why it was so costly for black's position that he gave up the loss of the E5 pawn means that this pawn on D4 is a perpetual weakness. And look at that move by Wesley. Bishop D6.
He needs a pawn on C5.
He realized that he had to play the move C5, and he made room, but does this give
You can't take
white an opportunity? No, I'm thinking that white should take, Jen.
Oh, bishop E5.
Bishop E5.
Oh, Bishop E5.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, sorry,
The
C5
queen.
again. I was thinking I wanted you to trade on D4, but C5.
C5, yeah.
I apologize.
Right. So instead,
knight takes D4 is not a good decision.
Garry changing the character of the game. If we can refresh the board to the current position, he played the move knight to B3. As we see, this other game is looking drawish, even though it looks like a complex position, but it's looking like he's going towards a draw. And now a real Benoni type position on our hands as Kasparov has all these pieces developed. The position right now is coming down to the knight on A6.
Correct.
Black will have to make a couple of moves to get this piece back into the game. One bad piece in chess can cost you, just one bad piece, especially at this level. So even though he'll be able to develop his bishop off of C8, he'll be able to get his rook into the game, and he has this D3 pawn to look at. But that knight on A6 is going to have to solve itself, and it's not so easy to play knight back to B8 and knight to C6 with your C pawn hanging. So right now, Wesley in a little bit of difficulty, especially given that it's White's move in this position. But how can White press him? That's the trick. It looks like d4 or something to break open the position is natural, but it allows the knight to get to the c5 square. And so Garry is hesitating on this move. He wants to play, and he's played bishop to g5 instead. Bishop to g5.
Chasing the knight on f6, a good defensive piece, protecting Black's king. Bishop g5, trying to make Wesley's life a little bit awkward by misplacing the knight on f6.
And knight just step back to d7,
right?
Just to overprotect also that pawn on d4 on c5, but now
and
d4
by Garry Kasparov, opening up the position.
That's right, because now if you take on d4, not only would we have the b5 square, but we'd also have the f5 square. So instead, Wesley not capturing on d4, but playing knight to b6, attacking the c2 pawn, I mean the c4 pawn rather, and trying to hold us off from playing d5 to get that big pawn center.
Now it's looking like a Grunfeld. The openings are just morphing into each other, but he's taken on c5 and changed the character of the game yet again, allowing this knight to come into the c5 square.
But we could play knight d4 here.
Well, the engines decry this exchange.
Absolutely.
The engines think that was a bad sequence. Where did White's advantage go after trading off everything there? Black is perfectly fine. That was not his greatest moment. Garry Kasparov having weakened his A pawn, C pawn. All Wesley needs now are just a couple of accurate moves, and he'll be completely equal. The engine's saying queen d8 being the best move right now. Queen d8, queen d7.
No
queen
move looks
d7,
too bad, though.
Yeah,
these moves all look reasonable. And
very
and which one
decent.
did Wesley choose? It looks like he did choose queen d8. And Garry avoiding the queen trade with queen to c2 and protecting his pawn on c4. On knight g5 ideas were in the position.
So h6 came like a shot by Wesley. That's why I kind of like queen d7. Because we would get this position, and when this rook develops itself naturally.
Yeah, but look at why he put it on d8. The move
f5.
Queen to f6.
And now he played bishop e5 because you can't take twice on e5 because we've got rook d8 check, and suddenly that queen on c2 comes into play. Although you do have bishop f8, so how's that variation shake out, yes? So rook e5, knight e5, queen e5, rook d8 check, bishop f8.
And he's done it. He's done it. He's got two pieces for the rook, and now rook has to play check. I mean, it looks like there'll be no advantage. No, he's played rook to d1 after that move. Rook to d1.
So he's taken twice on e5, and then instead of rook d8 check, starting with the rook e1.
Rook e1.
But now after queen f6.
Well, then I go check and bring the other rook.
Exactly, because we don't have time to take on f2 because you're doing everything with check.
No, this right now is critical. He must play bishop f5. This was his only move to go into this line. And unbelievably, he's just fine after all the pyrotechnics. The move bishop f5, queen f6 was not played. Bishop f5 was played, and Wesley's found every single tactical idea here to equalize the position, and he just every single move, razor sharp, all those moves, and now he's up a pawn temporarily after all those trades. Just brilliant defense by Wesley So, giving away the pawn, of course, and now an equal position. Maybe slightly better for White after this trade because he has the bishop, but not much to write home about as long as Black doesn't drop the A pawn in any way. And, well, of course, after this move, rook d7, that sequence was fantastic.
Oh, well, bishop e5 was a great move if you don't see bishop f5, because I can't put my queen on f5 because then you just have rook d8 check and bishop e4.
Exactly.
So if we can go back, we can see why it's absolutely necessary
we'll
that
take
he plays
a look at that.
bishop
We
f5.
can take a look at that later. Bishop to a8.
I'm afraid if I go back, it'll automatically update my board, and I'll be in conflict with the game as it's ongoing with the analysis.
But meanwhile, now that we have a pawn equality here, what's going on in the other game? Can we take a quick look at Nakamura versus Caruana?
Also a crucial game, and Hikaru, to keep pace with this extraordinary play by Wesley So, is going to have to beat the tail ender and U.S. champion and #2 in the world, Fabiano Caruana, and queen e6.
No, because Wesley is probably not going to win, so by drawing.
Well, I'm just saying, to win himself and to keep pace. Queen e6, queen e7, with this threat to the e6 pawn. Black under pressure. Rook F6.
Under big pressure, don't you just have Bishop G5 here?
Bishop
The
G5.
Indians did not like that move at all.
Wow.
Believe it or not, King F7 was the move
Bishop
being given. And he's played Bishop to E5, and White is better for sure. You have to put the rook on H6 to defend the pawn, but that rook is just relegated to being a protector, a defender only, with no attacking chances whatsoever. So Nakamura is not going to be happy with that choice. I'm sorry, Fabiano is not going to be happy with that choice. So Fabi in a bit of trouble right now.
A bit of trouble. A big trouble.
And so instead he just played this move, rook D8.
Trying to get rid of that queen, which is harassing.
And the
But
queen.
now I'm a little worried that after Queen A4, when you move your rook, we have like Bishop D4 and you're overextended. No, I guess you still have Queen C7.
I have Queen A3 also in the position, Jen. Queen takes A3.
Yeah, that's true.
I was actually looking at the sacrifice in that position of Queen takes A3.
No, but look at this. Bishop G4 is powerful because the rook on D8 and the knight on A5 are going to be hanging. And Garry did draw his game as we expected. Now the move knight to C4. That Queen G4 move was not accurate by White. Queen G4 was not accurate. Knight C4 has brought him back into the game, and he's looking to try to get some kind of edge here. He dropped his bishop back to D4.
But now
That's
A3
a nice tempo.
A3 could be taken. But instead,
And what did he do? What
He
did he
played
allow?
Queen
He
D6.
just allowed this sequence with Queen to H5, and it's suddenly Black is in trouble.
because if you play G6, we have Bishop takes G6, and then after Pawn G6, there's actually just Queen H8 mate rather than Queen G6 King out.
We don't want to know any of that. But this position is terrible. And Queen G6 is a blow,
Queen
and he's
G6.
played it. Queen G6, big trouble right now. Big
Bishop
trouble.
F6 came
Bishop F6
instantly.
on the board. and
Instantly.
now he just has to trade this off and penetrate with his queen, but he's trying to work out a win. Fabiano, with only 15 seconds left, Naka has to find just a few quick moves.
I think rook takes B3, opening up the B file so you can go check, 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 and put your rook on B7 with check.
Well, why not take on F6 first, just so that the king is forced to go to
yes, without
forced
question.
to go to F7.
And he's finally taken on B3. Bishop takes on E5. And it doesn't look like it's mate anywhere. So he's got to be careful. But is this move knight D2 a move?
Then it's all checks, and there's a rook
Then there's
B7
Queen
check.
H7 and
he's
Queen
played
H8.
it, I think.
Well, there's Queen H7 check, King F8, Queen H8 check, King E7,
And he's dropped
Rook
the
B7.
exchange.
What?
He has dropped the exchange on F1.
What?
And he's played Bishop G6, but it doesn't work. This, right now, the game is crazy. Black, according to the engines, completely winning.
Queen H2 check.
But he played Queen H2 instead of bringing his knight back out. That was enough, but now the engines are giving
Winning.
White
And look
as
at
completely
3.
winning. Look what he did. He blundered again. Did Caruana and hung his queen to
my
this tactic. He
goodness.
was completely winning at the end, but he just could not do it with the time pressure. Caruana has now lost 6 out of 7 games.
Wow.
6 out of 7 games. Incredible. Back
I think
here.
there was an issue here that the king actually was escaping after Rook B7.
Let's go
No,
to
this
Maurice
position,
to show the critical highlights.
this was winning here. King F8 right now. This is fine for him. He played Bishop to G6. This was a blunder, and now the engine just say, just take your knight back out. You just bring your knight out. It's easy. There's nothing for White to do here because you just don't win anything. It's just knight back out, and the rook's not doing anything. It's just a complete win for him. Instead, he took on H2 with check. Now the king took on F1, and now the engines give rook to B8 as the best move, which is a bit of a surprise. Rook B8, there might be some tactics down here, but instead he played Queen F4, which was just a blunder after the trade, and Rook to F3, and he lost the game. Caruana not playing quickly enough and just making mistakes. He's not showing any fine form in Blitz right now. He's lost 6 out of 7. He lost the last 3 yesterday and 3 out of 4 today.
And in this game, Maurice,
he's just out of it.
in this game of Garry Kasparov, you got to give Wesley So incredible credit.
For finding this Bishop F5 only
This
move.
is the only move, this move, Bishop F5. When Garry went into this whole combination, this forcing combination, he had envisioned this opportunity for himself of simply winning, thanks to these back rank issues that Black has.
And we'd be forced to play something like Bishop E6 and give up an exchange and be
F8,
crushed.
F8,
Yeah.
F8
is
check first,
checkmate.
it's not-
Yeah, oh,
It's
it's over.
checkmate.
Yeah.
F8. So that was why
No,
in
this
this
was
whole
beautiful.
forcing sequence,
This was
it
beautiful.
looks great. But
Every single
until,
move.
look
just
at this.
Perfect.
everything, and he
equal.
saved the game.
But,
Incredible play.
But they were tied for first. So
What's
now,
the situation?
So now, Hikaru, with the win,
Big win.
isn't he in first place? If we could draw up that graphic, I think they were tied going into this round, weren't they? So Hikaru with the win is now clearly in first with 8 points.
Half a point.
Wesley at 7.5. Garry still in the hunt with 6.5, trying to win today. But, well, he did win one game today, did Garry, but against Fabi. Fabi is the victim today. He's losing a lot of games. He's at 4 points. He's got to somehow stop the bleeding as they're taking it to him the rest of the field right now. But it is Hikaru Nakamura, the pre-tournament favorite on paper, who is ahead in the competition right now.
And Garry, again, is in a must-win situation, having the black pieces against Hikaru Nakamura, because he cannot allow this man to run away from the field.
And it's going to be another well, not another Grunfeld. I thought it would be a Grunfeld, but instead it looks like it's Naka is stuck with the F3, but Gary's played a Benoni type system.
Exactly. And remember, in their game yesterday, it was that crazy Benoni game that Hikaru was completely winning. Then Garry had turned the tables, and he was completely winning. And they're repeating their line of yesterday, which was a very, very exciting contest indeed.
Well, we do see that a lot in Blitz, right?
Yes, yes. Both players stubbornly playing their favorite openings against one another. H5 by Garry, and the same idea that Garry had yesterday. Oh, but the deviation, a novel idea Garry had prepared for this game, Knight H5. Remember Bobby Fischer's Knight H5 from
allowing Bishop takes
1972.
H5. We've actually got T-shirts and shirts over at Q Boutique that say Knight H5.
That's all it says.
Of
It's
all
fantastic.
the moves, of all the moves that you could pick, that is
But
like
this
a perfect
doesn't matter
one.
in this position because the rook is sitting on H8, so you don't
But
mind.
by the way, this is a Benoni player's dream of establishing a bishop on E5, followed by putting the knight on F4, followed by putting the pawn on G5. Big strategical decision right here and now.
White must play, according to the engine, White had to play the move G4 in that position, allowing the pawn takes on Passan and takes on Passan and keeping control of the dark squares. He did not do it.
He played Bishop E3 instead. And Garry Kasparov sensing opportunity here.
F5 is a big move now. Push the pawn from F7 to F5 play a la Benoni style, wild play with the idea of playing the pawn to F4, dominating all the dark squares on the board. That would just be a tremendous move, but very committal with your king still sitting on the E8 square.
Not an easy move to make.
Oh, well,
no, not
if
at
somebody's
all.
going to make it, it's Garry. Garry loves playing F5.
And look at Hikaru. Hikaru looked up in the skies like, why me? Why did he have to play that against me?
A move and a half by Garry Kasparov. That move F5. He's not afraid. He's decided he's got to take it to him. He's got to win this game.
Quickly ripping it off and playing Knight D2. He figures, hey, if two pieces want to go to E3, then maybe it's time to open up the position a little bit.
But wait a minute, this looks great for Black.
Isn't it time to play Queen E7 here,
Queen
guys?
E7 was the best move, as you called it. Queen E7 was great, but instead he's played Knight to E5 instead.
Maybe we can stick in a little Queen C2, try to get a little play in, so that you got to watch the G6 square.
Well, yeah, but that's why Queen E7 was so good, attacking the bishop on E3.
Exactly.
But Knight now just losing a tempo or not gaining a tempo. Now the critical move yet again, the move F4 is hypercritical in this position, but the Knight will go to G4. Unfortunately, it allows the white knights to get the E4 square potential access, but it's a real decision. It looks like he has to make this decision because Garry himself wants to play F4 and just get a complete bind, and he's done it. These guys recognize strategic concepts so quickly when they have to do it.
You think they're just tacticians? No way.
They can't let you get away with stuff. And they definitely spotted it.
Look at this, Knight C4.
Knight C4.
That was a very unexpected. No,
because Knight E3, there's Bishop H5 in between moves, so he has no time to play Knight takes E3.
Right, and Garry quickly Garry quickly canceled, anticipating this move, Knight C4.
And now we're resuming the thread of, well, the positional idea of playing Knight takes E3, since Bishop takes H5 no longer comes with check.
And look at this. Oh,
passes.
Hikaru giving up the dark square bishop. Again, a Benoni player's
Yikes.
dream. 93. 93. Bishop D4.
Right, bishop
Automatic.
D4. Maybe he's just thinking they're in that position, bishop H5, and then after bishop takes E3, check king H1. So perhaps
Just
Garry.
the trade-off, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what is possible. I think Garry wants to keep everything on the board in this position. He wants to play something like queen to E7 and build the game. What's amazing about this position, what I say, it's 18 moves. And how many 18 moves in less than 4 minutes? How many rich ideas have we seen so far?
It's extraordinary.
It's unbelievable.
It really
How
is.
much content have we been talking about in less than 4 minutes?
By the way, what about knight G3, guys?
Knight G3 happened.
Knight G3. Is that
We've
move
had it on
possible?
the board. We've got knight G3 on the board, guys.
Oh, shoot.
That is a big move. The engines are saying not good for black.
Let's see it because Garry has played that move.
I know. I had to refresh the board, Jen. I mean, there was some analysis.
So let's take a look. So
Here
we
we go.
G3.
Here we go. And Naka has accepted.
He's accepted the challenge.
So our queen's coming to H4. That's the idea.
Absolutely.
What's amazing is the engines thought this was good for white, clearly good for white, but more analysis is showing that black does have some compensation absolutely after taking. He has not captured yet, though. He has not captured yet.
So the idea is that white can try to round up the pawn with it's our move. If we play rook F3, you just play queen H4. We're too slow.
We do have this backward move, bishop G1.
Now
And
you have
what
to
has
take.
happened?
And we now have the capture, and now the knight to
I have to
E4.
read-
A double capture.
Sorry, I did it wrong. My bad. I had to refresh my board.
So we've got a double capture on G4 now.
And
Knight E4 was a mistake. Knight E4 was
Queen
not the best
H4.
move. Queen
He's
H4.
trying to
Automatic,
take on
automatic.
G3.
He's
That's
gone,
his idea.
He's gone defensive,
He's-
but his major
given
part of his
back.
advantage went. But guess what? White is still
Queen E1.
still okay,
forces the
definitely.
trade. Queen
And the
E1.
pawn on D6. Note that pawn on D6 will hang later. So Queen E1 forcing a trade, and Garry's initiative has now died down completely.
Wow.
And what defense? That's the great thing about Nakamura. He is such a great defensive blitz player.
Sure.
He can just instantly assess what he needs to do. And he said, let me get rid of all the issues. Now just trading down, and his knight on C4 is a monster. The
Agreed.
pawn on D6 is awful.
That's right, because if you play a move defending it, we can amp up the pressure.
Nobody's defending anything.
Agreed.
Be serious. Gary's going to play bishop F5, knight takes D6, bishop D3. If you move your rook to F2, Gary's going to play C4, and he's going to try to get some compensation for his lost material.
Good guess.
Whether it's enough, I don't know, but Garry looks disheartened.
You can't get passive here.
Yeah, Gary looks disheartened by
After you
this
play a
turn of
move like
events.
knight D3, knight D3, you're thinking...
Knight G,
knight
yeah.
G3, excuse me. After you play a move like knight to G3 back here, you're thinking attack, crush,
Absolutely.
mating variations. And then the guy plays this sequence with takes on G3, then takes back, and then trade again, and then put the knight in, kill the pawn, trade queens. Sorry, your attack is gone, and he has not moved yet. And Garry, disheartened, realizing he has to defend a worse ending. He does have enough comp, but it's not the position he was looking for when he dropped the knight on G3. And look at his clock. He's scratching his head right now, and he's not pleased with the current state of the variations. He's not developed with his pieces. He's got to reset.
Guys,
Time to reset.
I think there's an exchange sacrifice in the position. Gary's going to have to play rook D8 instead, and after knight B6, and only now play the move bishop F5. Accept the loss of the rook, but his two bishops will keep the E file closed, and there's a pawn on B2. Some counterplay with B5. What is
He
so
went
very
passive with bishop D7. A pretty stunning option for him. Just going passive, giving away the D pawn.
All right, I just refreshed my board, so bear with me. But bishop D7 was Gary's choice.
Probably hoping to get some counterplay going on the A4 pawn if he can hit that knight and remove it, but.
And there's this pawn on B2 hanging too.
And he has taken on A4.
He did.
But bishop C5 is on the board. Why can't you just take the pawn now with threats to take
Well,
another
bishop
pawn?
C5, bishop B3, knight B7, rook F7. Good chances there
Rook
that
F7,
Gary.
knight D6.
that Gary
I
will
don't
be
know.
able
There
to-
it is. The pawn is now off the board. No, this is tough. This is tough. What is he down? One clear pawn right now, and he's played the move. Is that B6? B6 on the board. That allows a capture.
Well,
Of course.
That allows a capture. He can take that pawn and now allow a rook to b8, but he didn't take it. He backed away and played bishop to a3.
defending b2.
Just trying to keep the position
But now
under
it's
control.
bishop d4 check. That seems kind of annoying. But
Bishop
The
to b.
real annoying would be
Yeah.
to get that pawn to g3 and then play bishop to d4 check, Jen. Then you got checkmates down the h file, but he's played bishop
Exactly.
d3. The move I liked, remove that pawn from the and
he needs to
Nakamura.
nipping
He's
the ideas in the bud there.
no
I love
question
it. Nakamura
about it.
sees attacks long before
You
they're on
even
the
knew.
board. Before you
Yeah.
even conceive them, he's alert to the
Wow.
dangers. He's an incredible defender in Blitz. That's why it's so hard to take him down. Remember that game Fabi had when he was down a rook for a
queen.
queen,
Yeah.
and he managed to somehow save that one miraculously. And he's just a tenacious defender. And Garry has to find moves with his seconds ticking down. He's down to 27 seconds.
And b5.
And B5, look at Nakamura's clock advantage. If he can find just 2 or 3 moves right now, he could really cause trouble for Garry. Garry cannot hesitate. It's time to make some quick moves, as that delay is not helping him as he stops to think. 5 seconds pass, 6 seconds pass before he finally made a bishop on a2.
Wow, just burying the bishop to get rid of, to get out of any discoveries by Hikaru. But check
Maybe
this
he's
out.
going to try to play the move a5 since you can't take on b5 because of bishop c4, and then we're also threatening to move b4, trapping the bishop.
And the pawn
Absolutely.
now dropped, and there's the threat now. b4 is the threat after rook to b8, and bishop back out to c5. With Garry down to only 19 seconds, he played b4. White has to make progress somehow, but look at him consolidate his position first. Rook to d2, a5, looking for a pass pawn.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
Great defense by
counterplay
Garry as well, dynamic.
Yeah.
But will he be able to do it in time? He has a real issue here.
Ooh.
And b3, whoa,
Burying his bishop
is
on-
buried forever on a2.
I don't like that
And now
move.
a sacrifice. Look at Kasparov.
What did he do?
Sacrifice. He sacrificed on f4. Rook takes on
Whoa.
f4 with check.
King h6.
King h6, bishop h6.
Bishop
So we're
h6
winning
being
back.
the idea. He's changed the whole tenor of the game. And now
Tactics.
Kasparov is back in the hunt.
Tactics.
Now looking to trade off the dark square bishop. He understands he can't. Whoa. The only trouble he has is his bishop is out the game, and that knight and rook are trying to combine to mate him. But he's figured
bishop
out.
b1. Bishop
Bishop b1
and
was
you're
played.
Right.
And there it is.
You're
The
right
bishop is back.
And
Garry is back in safety mode, and his king is stalemated for the moment. But
Hikaru trying to
but
weave
Hikaru
checkmating.
can somehow checkmate him.
Trying to weave checkmating net with the knight on f6 and the rook on the 7th
And
rank.
Gary's aware that there's no mate, and look at him. He's bouncing, bobbing in the
Bobbing
chair.
and weaving.
He's like, give me that pawn. Now he has a pass pawn himself, so that's dangerous. How does he untangle those pieces? He now is looking to get his king out. His
That's
king
right.
is out.
His king is out, ready to go to e6.
Very good.
And the
And
other game was a draw.
The other game ended in a draw. Incredibly, with only 15 seconds, Garry realizes he can save this position. Once his king is out, his bishop can always sacrifice for the g-pawn. So
Exactly.
now he's perfectly fine. He might start even
And
looking
he
to
just
do something.
He just attacked the knight, but we can always can we simplify here if we really want to?
Yes, of
We
course.
just
This
take
is a
on
draw.
b3, rook takes
This is a
d5,
draw.
rook takes.
Anytime he wants, the two players can draw. And Nakamura shaking his head. He got outplayed. He looked over to see what happened in the other game, and he realized something went amiss as Garry defended like the Rock of Gibraltar. Amazing chess by Kasparov to save the game, and that game ended in a draw as well.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? Amazing chess by Kasparov. Amazing chess by Nakamura as well.
Well, he had such a big edge.
Well, come on. When somebody spanks down knight g3, sacrificing
Oh,
and
yeah.
going
Yeah.
after the king, what
both
he
played great.
did.
Instantly finding knight
All
e4, knight
the
takes
best
c3.
moves.
By the way, that's very instructive, guys. Knight to e4, so that you can play knight g3 and then force the trade of queens with queen e1. And we saw that same kind of idea in Wesley's game where he played queen f8, stopping the attack.
Yeah, again, this looks like a fearsome attack that Nakamura's king was under, and the way he just neutralized that whole attack was poetry. This was incredibly well
but
played.
I think he was shaking his head because he had the minute and 40 seconds against about 15 seconds on the clock. He saw that situation. It was a big edge for him, and all he had to somehow do was keep the game under control. But Kasparov hit him with that move. Rook takes f4, and then bishop h6, bishop d2, something Naka is used to doing to people. But Garry showed that he can defend as well, and he had his bull face on, like no, I'm not going down. And he's still within the possibility of catching Nakamura. He would have liked to win that game, but that's what it is. There's 4 rounds to go. Nakamura with still only a half a point lead over Wesley So. Garry Kasparov a full point behind Wesley at 7. Caruana definitely out of this competition now. Even if he won the next 4 games somehow, he only tied with Nakamura.
Right.
So there's no way in the world all the math is going to work in Fabi's favor. Essentially, he's been mathematically eliminated from first. And
Nakamura ready to go.
Back to the table, hungry to play.
Nakamura, he wrote this article on chess.com about bullet tips. One of the big tips was never resign. Another one was if you're in a zone and you're winning games, you're playing great, keep playing.
Yeah, press your luck.
That's right. It's not luck. It's more of like that zone flow state, right, Yasser?
Yeah, exactly.
But who's in zone and flow right here? Probably Wesley, if anything.
Both of these men, Wesley So and Nakamura, have given as a great treat. And
did you see Wesley? Wesley tried to talk to Nakamura there just before. He said something to Naka, and Naka just looked up at him like, "Who are you talking to? Let's play chess."
Well, Wesley So, good proof that you can be super nice and still brutal on the board, right?
Yeah.
We saw that in the first game. And Wesley opening with knight f3, and we're seeing, looks like we're just going to see a queen's gambit decline. That's the first time we've seen this opening in Blitz.
But this is the game of the round. These are 2 players, only half a point separate them. And if Wesley wins this game, he takes the lead in the tournament.
Exactly.
Naka does leapfrogging Naka. So this is a huge game. The last game of this round. Wesley definitely wants this point, like without question, because he's gonna. This is probably his last white against Nakamura as well. So he wants this point. But they seem to be revisiting a line they played earlier in the tournament. They played the same line yesterday, exact same line.
Right. I remember Vishy Anand winning a key game in his World Championship match against Magnus Carlsen with a breakthrough B4, B5, followed by C5, C6, which is why Hikaru has played this move, Queen C8, stopping that tactic.
And quickly, Queen C2 and Queen B7.
All theory so far.
That's why they're playing so quickly. We see Rook B1 by Wesley.
Giving away the A file if Naka wants to grab it with taking on B4.
And if Nakamura says that this game isn't important to him, he's lying. he's the man here in the U.S. in Blitz, and he wants to show, especially somebody like Wesley and Fabi, that as well as the world.
Yeah.
He did trade on the A file and now played the move Rook to A3, cementing his Rook in White's position. He can always bring his other Rook over to A8. This position is looking pretty tepid at the moment. White not having any clear breaks to show advantage or play anywhere.
There is poison in the position, though, Maurice. The usual strategy for White is to play Rook Fc1, bring the knight back to E1, bring the knight to D3. Oftentimes, the B pawns get traded, and the knight stands beautifully placed on the B4 square, attacking the C6 pawn. But Hikaru has a great deal of experience in this particular line on both sides of the board. And
body language should also speak about this position, because Hikaru just leaned back in his chair. Look at Hikaru, arms folded, like, make a move, I'll come when you're ready. And he's come back into intense focus on the board, but he knows he's played this line to essential equality, more or less. And his other Rook now hesitating in this position. He's going to bring his Rook to the A file. And the idea you mentioned, Yaz, knight E1, now on the being played on the board. The knight retreating, headed to the D3 square.
Very nice play by Wesley. And Black has to be careful, because this move, B4, B5, hangs over his head.
Well, B5 has actually just been played by Nakamura.
And hence, that's why we see Hikaru playing the move himself, just to shut down that tactic.
Queen B2 by Wesley, attempting to perhaps seize the A file.
But that won't lead too far, Queen B2.
He can also play knight
Bit of an odd plan in this position.
Queen B2 doesn't fit with the White's basic strategy. With the queen side now closed, usually White plays knight D3, F3, and E4. I think that this is going to be an easy equality. What?
And
knight E4.
Yes,
94.
best move actually according to the engine.
Because of course you've given up control with this move, Queen
B2 was a little bit of a mistake.
So if we play knight e4 and just attack the pawn, you simply have the move f5, huh?
As well as knight f6.
And the d5 square will fall into black's hands. That's just great compensation. Now, Wesley not happy with this position. This would be tremendous if Nakamura won this game. He'll take a 1.5 lead on Wesley, and I guess, yes, and also Garry, even if Garry won the other game, which is right in the opening right now, and the trade has happened.
Because if you don't, then knight c3 and rook a2, and black's starting to infiltrate himself.
Yeah, let me just take a quick peek at Garry's game.
That incredibly still just in the opening. They're playing
still
very
in the opening,
slowly.
very slow.
Looks like another scotch.
That one not really
another
developed
scotch
yet.
with the bishop e3.
We'll go back to our fight for first place.
And now there's a fight for the a file.
What is the knight doing on c2? This knight is going to be gorgeous.
This is just good for black.
Very, very good. And Wesley So with that one slip, queen
and
c2.
There's been a trade, and almost hoping for maybe b takes a4, but even though you'd have a passed pawn, that would let Wesley's knight get back into the game with knight a3 and knight c4. So,
guys, Hikaru is taking over.
Slowly looking for an edge is Nakamura, but the key in this position is the position is so blocked.
Yep.
It's so blocked, it's very hard even to find a sequence that allows this bishop on e7, as now king f1 has been played, allows this bishop on e7 to get into the game. Knight to d5, attacking the bishop, and now the bishop's going to move. It's going to e5. How does black make progress against this fortress position that white has created? Now f6. He would love to break the position somehow, but how does he make any real progress after the bishop is dropped back to the g3 square? It looks as though this is just drawn. It doesn't seem as though there's any way to make real progress here. Lots of time on the clock. What just happened?
He had this move knight b4 because if knight takes b4, there's queen d1. If
Wow.
queen b4, queen c2.
Whoa!
No
Beautiful
fortress.
tactic. Hello.
No fortress.
No fortress. The king on f1 was a mistake. The king on f1, he's just shown it. That king marching over to the f1 square. By putting it there, he set up his own self-mate. And now he's busted. Now Nakamura just stole this pawn with his tactic. And we should go back just 1 second just to show the audience. Right here, after knight takes on b4, you cannot take with the knight. You can't take with the knight because of queen to d1 mate.
And by the way,
that was the key. The king going to f1, and Nakamura spotted the tactic, and that changed the whole evaluation of the position.
That's right, and he could have played it the move before, but no reason not to throw an f6 because there's once you play f6, it's not even if Wesley's solid at that moment. There's nothing he can do about it.
Naka's
he has
winning
to retreat
now.
the bishop.
Naka's winning a huge tactic.
And
he's so alert tactically. He'll win this game. He'll take over complete command of the tournament.
Just play queen a2, dominate the white queen, so there's no counterplay with queen a5 and checks and stuff. Queen a2, dominate the game, and with pawn in hand, Hikaru is going to just cruise to victory in this game.
So let's take a look at Garry's game then, because it looks like Nakamura, wow, he found that nice tactic in a simple game position. Just goes to show you, just because there's not a lot of pieces left on the board doesn't mean there's no tactics.
Exactly. He's so gifted, though. He spotted that.
Incredible.
He spotted that one, and we do have a scotch. Garry came well prepared, but does he have an advantage? It's hard to see why.
Well, Caruana just played a big move here. Just played the move f5.
He's going to undermine.
No time for en passant because that e3 knight is hanging.
Right, and Garry's bishop dropped back to e2 and was threatening bishop c4. So we saw this move king, g8, h8, getting out of that bishop. And
notice our nice pressure here, Fabiano's pressure on the g2 square. He's got a knight and the bishop bearing down on that, but if we try to play the move g3, the problem is now we're going to come in with queen c6, and if you take our knight, we have checkmate. Exactly. And you wouldn't have time to play bishop f3 anymore because not enough pieces defending that square.
You know, we're doing all this analysis, and all I can see is the clock. I mean, Garry has
2 minutes less.
42 seconds left. By the way, the only clock, just so that there's no confusion, the only clock that really counts is the clock next to the player. So pay attention to that clock only. Sometimes you might see a little bit of refreshing going on the digital, on the 2D board. That's not accurate. The only accurate clock is that one you see there, and that one is keeping time perfectly for the game. Garry now down to 41 seconds, 2:10, and you see there that it's not exactly right. It's constantly refreshing here on the 2D board. In the meantime, Black is happy.
Oh, he just shifted his queen to G6, putting additional pressure on that G2 pawn, what Jennifer was mentioning, and there was no way G2, G3 was going to be played, so Garry had to bring his rook up to F2. And this is the move, D6, that I thought was a key issue for White. Now, Rook D8 is almost an automatic.
That's
He's
right,
played
and that's
it.
happened, and now Gary's playing D7. Not as much to try to save the pawn, but it's to leave the rook at bay.
Exactly.
By the way, the
But
other
Bishop-
game, Nakamura prosecuting his advantage quite well. If you want to jump to that position just quickly,
will.
Nakamura managed to trade off queens, and now he has a real advantage in this position. And Wesley trying to defend that A-pawn is galloping down the board.
Bishop,
but wait
Bishop
a minute.
D4, Bishop D4 on the board would win the
Bishop
game.
D4 looks
Oh, nice
Look
one,
at
yeah.
that.
That's
Juicy.
beautiful,
And he's done it.
there it is.
Oh.
A winning move. Gorgeous
Sweet.
play, forcing resignation as the A-pawn will queen. Nakamura taking control of the tournament
A2.
with that win. Beautiful,
Study-like-
beautiful finish.
Study-like finish there.
A2 would have allowed Wesley the tempo he needs to be able to play and cover the A1 square. So that was why this final move, Bishop D4, is so sweet. After king takes A2, your bishop can't get
Did not
back
help
to cover
out.
the
That's
A1
why the bishop
square.
went to D4.
So you deflect the,
Beautiful.
bring the king to
That's
D4.
a big lead now. Point and a half with only 3 games left. Nakamura, just amazing tactics. We saw the night before. We saw the bishop to D4. And meantime, look at Garry.
Kasparov in trouble.
Shaking his head with only
He's
13 seconds left in the
very,
clock.
very unhappy with the turn of events happening here. And with the white pieces.
Yes, and a tail ender as well.
Oh.
Fabi wants to win a couple of games, show that he's a player as well. But come on,
Look at
only
this,
13
just
seconds.
doubling up on
now
the
only
E5.
11 seconds left for
That's
Garry.
right, we've got rook E7, knight F1.
But look
totally
at knight
passive.
D6. Oh, this is a beautiful, beautiful strategic mastery by Fabiano in this game as
That's right,
he's
threatening-
taking it to Garry.
We were just running knight E4, winning in exchange. So bishop D3 was forced, and then we played bishop to E4.
Oh, this is a beautiful dominating game.
More
by
exchanges, and now the
Fabiano
knight
Caruana.
on E4. Garry desperate, looking for moves.
It's over, guys.
But the problem
It's
is
over.
you can't move the rook away because we've got knight F3 check.
Exactly.
So
The-
Garry
a sacrifice.
desperate with knight D5 here.
There was a sacrifice, knight G3 on the board, but Caruana missed it. And now Garry hesitating there. He's got 3 seconds on his clock. 3 seconds to play the entire defense. He is in huge trouble right now.
Not
but
gonna happen. It's
will
not gonna happen.
Caruana figure out exactly what to do? He just needs to make a couple of moves. He doesn't even need to do anything. Right around now, just make some moves. And he's played this trade on F2. What did he take on F2?
And then takes on E8, but luckily
It's
we can
an
play queen
exchange.
E8.
He's a
It's
queen.
an exchange up. Winning position
Yeah.
on the board, winning
And
on the
the
clock.
clock. And the clock.
Kasparov has to move. He has to move, and his time is down to 2 seconds only. 2 seconds. I mean, it would take a miracle to save this position. And Garry
there
has
was
resigned.
no miracles. No
Gary's-
miracles.
That's right, Garry has gone down in that game. Nice display by Fabi.
Fabulous. Beautiful play. You don't see that happening to Garry Kasparov very often. Wow.
And let's see, how did this all change the standings? Nakamura cementing his lead.
Owning the day is Nakamura right now.
Huge.
Nakamura just playing. You saw him when he came in. He sat down first. Everybody else was walking around. He said, it's time to get down to business. Yesterday, you saw him all smiles, lollygagging. Yeah, it's not that serious. Yeah, right. Today, the game face is on, and one of the greatest Blitz players on the planet is showing it right now, demonstrating his tactical awareness, just lightning quick when it comes to your blunders. He will find it in a second. And his defensive skills especially, and look at this score. He's running up the score, guys. 9.5 points. Wesley So at 8 points, Garry at 7. Fabiano mathematically knocked out at 5.5. And it would take a miracle for Kasparov to win this tournament right now. It would be a
I think
complete
he's
collapse
back.
by Hikaru for Garry to win?
I think it's nearly, well, not
It's not quite over.
mathematically,
It's not over. Two players to catch him.
Yeah, but it's very unlikely. So Nakamura is showing his stuff today. The difference between today and yesterday. Yesterday he was defending well, but wasn't so sharp otherwise.
Today it's the complete package, right? He's playing well in his openings, middle games, endings, as well as keeping his mistakes to a small minimum. And wow, tactically.
Well, he's the man when it comes to Blitz. We do have 3 games left for you. Well, rather, 3 rounds left for you. So 6 games. Not going to want to miss any of that. And, on the community day here in St. Louis, we went to some of the schools, hundreds of schools that we're serving here at the St. Louis Chess Club. And Fabiano and Maurice went to a school in Ferguson.
We're playing a simul against these kids at Koch Elementary. They're awesome. Question, who thinks they can beat me?
Me!
Who thinks they can beat Bobby? We got our hands full. All right, let's get started.
It's a little competitive. He talks trash.
What are you doing with your rook? You want to whoop me in chess? Let's see you learn how to play chess before you say things like that. Well, you better practice because right now I'm coming to get you. Check to that king.
He's taking all my pieces. I'm real excited to play Grandmasters. He's gonna say check and I'll be able to move.
Nice move. I am impressed by that move.
Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate Blitz Challenge here in St. Louis. Hikaru Nakamura, with just 3 rounds to go, looks very confident because
he has a 1.5 lead, and he's got this tournament. If he just, goes through 3 draws, bam, he's got it.
But draws are not very common in Blitz. Draws are not
hard to get some 3 draws like that in Blitz.
Yeah,
that's right. And remember, Fabiano Caruana did beat him in their challenge match here in St. Louis.
I should have said he needs 1.5.
So we don't jump down your throat. That's
exactly.
Right. But Nakamura having played very well today.
And Fabiano, who has been the tail ender, just put together a master class against Garry Kasparov. Has Fabi got what it takes to take down the leader?
It's important when people are out of an event. What do they have to play for? What is his motivation now, Fabiano Caruana, knowing that he has no chance anymore? All the pressure is off. And we know professional teams in sports, they love to play spoiler against the teams that are trying to win championships or going to the playoffs. Can Fabi do the same? Can he find that motivation to beat Naka, to play spoiler right now? He does have the white pieces, so he's going to look to see if he can pull it off. And a loss by him, of course, Wesley's going to have to beat Garry Kasparov on the other side to bridge the gap, and that's not going to be easy. And Gary's in the same boat as well. He's realizing now, he's realized already, that his chances of doing anything have simply
he's basically
gone.
He's
basically playing for second place, and he's going to have to try to show something in the next set of games. He certainly doesn't want anybody like Fabi sneaking in and catching up to him.
And he's repeating the opening from the Immortal Blitz game, remember? We had this Immortal Blitz game by Wesley in the opening of today's round.
I've been having my board on the Hikaru game but I'll switch it now over, and a repeat once again of the brilliant game. And Garry said, I don't believe you. He's repeating
exact same line.
Let's do this again.
Let's dance. And
I don't think
has Garry already figured out an antidote to this incredible C5 pawn sacrifice that Wesley essayed earlier in the day?
Well, it doesn't look as though he has, because he's hesitating right now as Wesley has repeated the exact same line. Garry's a very principled player. If he doesn't believe you, he will play the same variation. But right now,
E5.
and he has played the move, and they're in the exact same position where Wesley, in this position, essayed. Wait, no, the last time he played C5, didn't he? In this position.
Yeah, he played H3, Bishop D7, C5.
H3, Bishop, right, that's correct. Now he's played a different move, allowing knight to F6, and now they're in the King's Indian proper, except that Bishop sitting on G4 and the white knight on D2, the two key changes in the position. And guess what? C5 is back on the board yet again. This C5 move is thematic as far as Wesley So is concerned, and he's opened up the C line very quickly without any tempo losses, chasing the bishop now at H3 and pushing Garry backwards. And where's that bishop going to go? D7, but that allows eventually the move knight to C4, so he's preparing it as Wesley So with rook to E1. He didn't want to hang his E-pawn.
You remember, it wasn't so pretty for Garry in the last battle when he had a knight sitting on C8 in order to defend against knight C4. So he's played the move B5.
No, he did not play B5.
I'm suggesting the move B5 because everything Marie said was right on the button, and that knight on C4.
And he did it.
Yeah, of course. The knight on C4 is going to be so powerful that you just stop it. You just have to stop it. That's all it comes down to. And Wesley just played the move Bishop E1. Principal idea in the position
Bishop F1.
Bishop F1. Principal idea in the position for black is to get in the move F5. But Garry, recognizing that his knight on E7 doesn't have a future, has played knight C8 in order to come to B6. And look at this, Wesley playing beautiful. Both players anticipating the plans of one another. Wesley's played B3 so that when that knight comes to B6, it doesn't have either C4 or A4 as an outpost.
Also, you have to look out for Bishop A3 now, another way to target the pawn on D6.
Exactly.
By the way, in the other game, Nakamura has gotten a bit of an edge with the black pieces. If he wins the game, he's virtually guaranteed winning the tournament, although mathematically it still would be up for grabs. But very rich position here, very complex position. When we do this next time, we're going to have to stagger these games instead of doing them simultaneously, because we want to see both games, of course.
They're fantastic.
They're just
games.
incredible to watch all these games. Of course, it would take longer for the broadcast, but I think that the fans would forgive us with such thrilling games going on at the same time.
I couldn't agree with you more, Maurice. Each game should be showcased. These players are just phenomenal, and they're giving us a fantastic treat. And they should be showcased. So that game, still, all to play for. I see 3 results as possible. And let's switch back to Garry's game for a second, as the players have been
we
taking
see
their time.
A4 and A6 have been inserted into the position, and now Wesley taking on B5. At some point, we might be able to make use of that A6 square to get some extra pressure on D6.
The problem in this position for white is this knight on D2 with the pawn on B5. The knight doesn't seem to have a natural square. It's going to have to go back to B1 and find the C3 square. But at the moment, his center is just suddenly under attack with this move F5 by Kasparov. And so this knight sitting on D2 is a passive square, so he's going to be busy doing other things. He's just playing the move rook to A6.
Tying knights down. And it'd be really sweet if we could play knight G5 and hop into E6. Unfortunately, that square, it's not accessible, so we can't really do anything with either of our knights here. So white's position looking powerful except for the knight position.
Agreed. And this rook on A6 is really bothersome. You'd really love to play the move rook B6 here, but you don't want to walk into bishop B4 to A5, which would pin the rook and win an exchange. So pressure for Wesley, and a beautiful move by Garry. Posting his bishop on h6. It's all about activating your pieces, and we can see that this rook on a6, the bishop on b4, very, very active. Bishop on g7 wasn't doing much, now has a better diagonal.
And now we see an exchange on f5, and Garry has taken with the bishop on that square.
Oh, with the bishop.
Unexpected.
I don't
Indeed,
like that at all.
Because of the e4 square, right?
Absolutely. Maurice has been talking about what is that knight on d2 going to do? Well, if you recapture with the bishop, and there he
Wesley's
goes.
lashed out with g4, and now he's going to be ready to play the knight into e4 next.
A beautiful move by Wesley. I really like how, Wesley is playing great game.
And you see a little shaken as Garry brings his bishop back to d7, perhaps not regretting not capturing with the pawn.
He had to.
Because now there's three pieces.
He had to capture with the pawn because there was a tactic in the position with the rook on a6, attacking the bishop all the way across the board on h6.
Oh.
There was a sacrifice
on
in
e5,
that moment.
right? There's knight
on
takes
e5.
e5.
There was knight takes e5. So he actually tactically slept on that one with his bishop on the h6 square, and that is why he took back with the bishop instead of with the pawn, and is now strategically worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and all of White's pieces looking very, very good.
That's right, forced to defend with the queen, which also creates another pin and potential tactics in the position, although right now everything is held on to here.
Right.
I would love to be able to play the move knight d4, jumping into the position, but for the moment, the discoveries don't seem like they lead to anything.
And in the other game, Hikaru is owning the board against Fabiano Caruana.
Let's flip to that board.
That pawn is on d6, but it looks completely insecure as he just played b4, chasing the bishop backwards, and White hanging on for dear life, trying to keep that pawn on d6. But he could capture it right now if he wants to. He could just take on e4 and then rip off the pawn on d6. That trade, bishop takes knight, whatever you take with most likely the bishop, of course, and then queen takes pawn on d6. He would be up a pawn, although White would have a great light squared bishop and the two bishops as well. But that's still a pawn, and Hikaru is trying to judge whether or not it's a smart idea. He is in a little bit of time pressure, well, at least a deficit against Fabiano right now, and he decided after all that thought, hey, it's a pawn. He has decided to take the pawn, and he's now ahead by one pawn, but he's going to have to face these two bishops, which, by the way, the bishop on c1 is not really saying much.
Exactly.
But
I don't think it's a fearsome pair of bishops there, Maurice.
No, it does. It certainly does not look completely clear. But queen h5 does ask a big question, though. Right now, queen to h5. I guess g6. No, g6 would stop anything from happening because the knight can always drop back to the g7 point. So that knight is ready to defend. Well, it's on the board.
And g6 instantly.
And g6, and he backed up with queen f3.
Yeah, the sacrifice would lead nowhere, and therefore that was why queen f3 was played, putting pressure on this knight on c6.
And while they're maneuvering, Wesley So has broken through against Kasparov. That g6 pawn is now off the board. Garry was not able to curtail the position in any way, and now he is in trouble, down a full pawn in the position as Wesley's hitting the bishop on d7 and the pawn on g6 as well, and ignoring the bishop. He's played e4.
Yeah, e4. What happens if e4?
Well, he just played rook takes d7, and now
an
opposite color bishop position where he is hoping that he has a drawing hand. But
well,
wait a minute.
bishop d2.
What is up with bishop?
There's bishop d2, but we have rook e7 here. So if
he also has rook e2, just attacking the bishop, and there it is.
E2, yeah.
And now he's gotten a pawn back, but he's down one on the board, and he's got a d pawn he's got to deal with. d6 to f3.
Garry barely holding on and playing for his life here.
So now what do you do after rook c7?
He's going to have to drop. He's going to have to go into full passive mode, I'm afraid. And he's played your move rook c7, Jen. I think he's going to have to play rook on f3 back to f8.
Oh, he's played b4.
b4, and now
completely ignoring the d pawn because he's got a b pawn himself.
That's right. So now if we play d, instead king g2, it looks like Wesley just played king g2. At some point, he's maybe going to play f4 to create another bas pawn.
No, but this is good defense by black. There's no way to crash through, and the b pawn's on the board. So there's just Kasparov has understood
Rook
White
E2.
cannot crash through. This is the key.
Rook E2 trying to double rooks on the 7th there, and you notice that if you play B3 and we play Rook E7 and you play B2, we actually just have mate and 2, right?
Exactly.
Mate and
But
3.
it's not mate. Rook F6 will control
Well,
the position
of course,
later.
it's not forced,
so
yeah.
he can go for it, Kasparov, but he has to make a calculation really fast and realize that he is defending with Rook to F6 at the right moment. He should just chase with his B pawn, and instead he's going after the D pawn.
So he just played Rook to D8, and we see Rook E6.
Yeah,
and,
the Indians did not like Gary's defense at all. Now he's just down material, but his B
but
pawn
his
is a
B-pawn's
counterplay.
running. And does Wesley? What is Wesley's idea now? So he snapped up a pawn. He always has this draw in hand.
Perpetual check in hand. Yes.
But he has a big edge on the clock. He's not going to try to perpet this position. No way.
Well, he has to find some way to stop the B pawn.
But I don't.
But he can
see...
stop the B pawn. Can't he put a rook on B7 at some point and make
No,
it
he can
happen?
play
But-
Rook C1, B2, Rook B1. But in that case, he should have his Rook. He should play Rook
Can't
back
go
to
passive.
H6.
You're asking him to go
He
passive?
can't
Yes.
go. He doesn't have time
Yeah.
for Rook G7, B2, Rook B7 because we can just queen in that position.
Right,
And
but
then,
I'm saying Rook
we win.
H6, King G8, and then go passive with this Rook. He's got 3 pawns versus 1.
Right.
Yeah.
That's his
But
only.
why can't he? Why can't
he's
he
done
put
it,
his?
he's done
I don't
it.
understand why he can't put his rook. Why can't he put his rook to H7 and when the pawn?
Because then you after Rook B7 we can just queen.
No, what happens on Rook H7
Rook
right
H7,
now?
B2.
B2.
And there
When
is
it-
no mating idea with.
With,
No, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
Then I play the Rook C to G7 with check,
Check, King
and then when
F8.
your king goes to F8, play Rook B7.
Okay,
you
and,
can't
the
queen.
king goes back to G8. And
you
I
have-
still got the B pawn.
You're still threatening to queen. That's true.
Right.
That's a tricky line. Rook H7 doesn't. That doesn't make sense.
Exciting game.
Yeah,
here
there's all
going
kinds
on.
of drawing formations with the double rook attacks, right?
Right.
Oh,
And Wesley now in time pressure.
oh, there
Is
was
this-
a way to do it. There was a way. You move your rook over to D7 in that position. The rook on the H file. He has to take the draw now, and Garry has repeated. Well, that one we'll look at. He did have a way to make his advantage work. But let's switch over to the leader, Fabiano Caruana, against the leader is Nakamura, and Nakamura has fought back against those bishops, and he's perfectly okay. But can he win this position? Now that Wesley's drawn, a win for him would be virtually decisive in the event. Caruana with only
8 seconds to 13 seconds.
8 seconds, moves coming quickly.
But by the way, the game is beginning to open up for the bishops. But after this move F5, Hikaru is going to be able to pick up the H6 pawn as well as the F5 pawn. Oh, this counterplay on the queen side. There goes one.
But there's a big pawn on the A file.
G4. Oh my goodness, this is going to be close.
And those queen pawns are very good against knights, right?
They
Those outside
are.
pass pawns.
But look at that, picking up a tempo to reposition his knight, and White
Oh no,
in big
White
trouble.
made a mistake.
Why Bishop E4?
Bishop E4 was a big mistake, and
Yeah,
Nakamura
losing a key tempo there.
back on the defensive, and there it goes. He's going to win the bishop. Well, now he's just playing for a draw if he can get over there, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. The knight's going to end up on F8. He's going to play knight G6, knight F8, take the A pawn. That's going to be game.
That's
He
right.
resigns in the position. Wow, Nakamura.
That's an important consolation that Maurice mentions because, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that the pawn can move 2 squares, we could just stick our king on G7, right?
Yes, exactly.
Then H5.
Well, Nakamura with a
Fantastic.
dominant situation. By the way, let's just show that so the fans can see it right here really fast. 2 positions of importance. In this position, right here, king to G5, knight back to F8. This was the key. Guarding this pawn, no matter what you do, which is go after your pawn here, and now you realize you can't touch the knight because this H pawn runs down the board, so you'd have to just sit, king takes pawn, and that would have been it. The other game, by the way, and that's why he resigned, the other game, this is the position which could have happened here, rook down, and if B2, rook check, and rook to B7. This is what we were analyzing a second ago. The mate is on the board here, so you don't want to trade rooks. You lose this pawn and have 2 passed pawns. So the only move is to come back to challenge this rook, but the key move to find is this one. And suddenly, black has no progress to make, And both sides are frozen, actually. White is threatening. Rook takes here. The rook could move, but now these pawns start to go down the board as well. So a challenge in this position to even find moves for black. It seems as though he was actually winning this position. But anyway, it was wild. It's still wild in this position, in effect. So let's get back to the standings themselves.
That's a stunning rook
And
constellation
look
there.
at that 10.5 points.
That's right. Nakamura's got a massive lead on the field now.
With two
two rounds to go. So Wesley has to win both of his games, and Nakamura has to lose both
for Wesley to tie.
Right. So now what we're talking about is must-win situations for Wesley. So meanwhile, second place wide open, but Nakamura just showing he's the Blitz boss today.
He's been in superb form, and that's the way it is with these guys. When somebody gets into the superb form that they're capable of, they can run away with the tournament. And I think all four players have that capability. But when Hikaru does it, he just looks majestic. I mean, almost untouchable, in fact.
The end boss. He's the end boss when it comes to Blitz.
Wow.
This kid.
Yeah. And he's had this reputation for almost 15 years, 10 years. I mean, when he was young, he was a great Blitz player just as a preteen.
That's right. And this game, of course, is going to be quite interesting. We're going to keep our eyes on Garry Kasparov versus Nakamura. Both of them love to pull faces that are perfect for internet memes.
Well, Garry certainly would love to win this game to just spoil Nakamura's party just a little bit, of course, as they go into a scotch again.
And by the way, Garry, on the first day of his scotch, was achieving positions that he was really mastering. Now everybody is playing this variation against his scotch.
Yeah, they're all you're totally right. They're all copying Hikaru because the other line is like a little bit trickier to play when you haven't analyzed. This one's a bit more easy to play in Blitz.
Exactly. And this is just the adjustments that the elite grandmasters make.
And Naka is the expert of that. What openings are good to play in Blitz? What openings are better to play in Classical? Because he has so much experience and he's such a practical player.
Absolutely.
He's willing to change it up.
We should point out that Wesley So is not doing anything in his game against Fabiano Caruana. He basically has to win out, but he has simply simplified that game. They're in this Queen's Gambit accepted type setup.
I think Wesley is acquiesced to the idea that Hikaru is uncatchable. He just wants to secure second place at this moment, knowing that his only rival for that second place is Garry Kasparov.
Who he'll play. Well, no. Will he play him in the last round? No, he does not play him in the last round.
He just played Garry, and they made it
so
go
he
off.
will have to play Hikaru with black in the last round, and it'll be like a trot for Hikaru. if Wesley plays him with no way of catching him whatsoever. But Wesley's got to hope that Garry wins as they play this position. I think Wesley must be looking for a window in this game. So we'll see what Garry can do to make any kind of headway against Naka. But look at Naka again. This is his posture when he is comfortable. He does not stay focused in focus mode, that is up, alert, over the board, when he feels like he's just okay. And he's just leaning back now, arms folded.
He's very content.
The
with his
neurons are
position.
firing well. The brain's just working perfectly. And he knows this is the mode he gets in when he wins game after game after game against anybody. And Nakamura just simply one of the best Blitz players in the world.
Ever seen.
No question about it. Now, a matchup we would love to see, no question.
Magnus?
Magnus versus Naka. I think that would be fun.
Baby.
Magnus versus Naka would certainly be a great match. I think people would pay to see that one. As
I would pay to see that.
Oh,
one.
man.
It's just fantastic.
you were told that you could not watch that?
No, I'd cry.
How much do you want me to pay?
That would be a huge punishment, actually. That should be our next bet. And let's take a look at who's in the audience. We've got our women's champion, Nazi Pikidze.
And number 2.
Somehow she's made friends with Tatev Abrahamian. Of course,
they were friends.
Of course,
Of
course, I'm joking. They were friends before, but not an easy situation with both of them playing for the title and Nazi leapfrogging against her at the last moment. But obviously, in chess, you gotta. That's the game. You gotta make friends with your rivals and play against them at some point.
Absolutely. Interesting move. Queen D2 by Garry Kasparov here. He had both pawns hanging in the center. I thought that he was going to play Queen C5, actually, posting up on the C5 square, but Queen D2 inviting a capture of his E4 pawn, and I'm sure Hikaru Nakamura is looking at that E4 pawn, very, very tempting. There's only one play in the position, D5, attacking this knight. The rook would come over to D8, pinning the knight to the queen. And does Garry have compensation? And of course, knight C3 castles. And I'm not 100% sure that this full compensation there.
Actually, the inch is giving white the edge.
Seriously?
Yeah, white
Okay.
the edge in that position.
I couldn't be more wrong.
Well, we can often bail out with the C7 pawn, right? There's often a pawn to snag.
Right. White has lots of initiative here, and that's what's justifying it. And Nakamura, deep into a think, at least a minute he looks like he spent. He went from being ahead on the clock to now being way down on the clock. That last move by Garry, Queen D2, actually the engine's very first choice. Garry defending his pawn, preparing the D5 thrust. Looks as though it has befuddled Nakamura, and he needs to figure something out very quickly. He also has bishop f3 that runs into bishop to g3, and he has taken queen takes, and Garry leans back in shock seeing that move. Queen takes on e4. I mean, that just simply allows the win of a piece for a couple of pawns, and he has decided to go for this position. Nakamura not wanting to have a position where he stood worse strategically, has sacrificed his piece. But he currently has 3 pawns for it.
Big decision, and I like White's position. The two Bs especially should give White a clear edge.
Well, he can also get a pawn back on C7.
And that's a huge pawn because that stops you from rolling with your center pawn.
Exactly. Queen takes D4, knight takes D4, bishop takes C7. That'd be an automatic for me. I'm a pawn grabber. And there's Garry grabbing the pawn as well.
Can anyone say insufficient compensation?
Me. I'll say it.
A big decision by Nakamura. He's going to have to call on his entire repertoire of defensive skills to save this one, as Garry now has dropped his bishop back, and you saw him screw that piece into the C3 square.
Did you like that twist?
Yes, that was a nice little move there. Like, you are in trouble, sir. I'm a piece up. The 2 bishops are now off the board after knight takes, but he's got an extra knight. Well, it's an extra bishop on the board.
And those 2 pawns are totally insufficient for the bishop on G3. This is dominating.
Especially since we're ganging up in the D5 pawn.
We should point out, if Naka goes down this game, Wesley So is dominating currently in his position against Fabiano Caruana. So that would close the gap quickly. Naka now in trouble, our leader in trouble in this position. Can he save this game? He's got 3 pawns, it looks like. 2 pawns, excuse me.
2 pawns,
2 pawns for the piece.
And
after knight B5, are we going to get one back?
He's going to have 1 pawn, actually, knight B5, and it will be over.
Yeah, this is just kaput. I mean, come on.
Bishop F2 is also being given as a strong move, as the strongest move in the position. Surprisingly, knight B5 also wins the pawn, but allows king to C6 with some tricks, apparently.
I see.
But he did not play either move.
He played neither of them.
He played rook to D3, and now king C6, the knight on E2. He knows that pawn on D4 looks delish. He wants lunch right now as everybody's ganging up. And black defends, and here's the extra piece. The value of the extra piece, and everybody's defending the D4 pawn. It's the only thing holding black's position together, as black is defending with everything, and Garry now resetting. Rook check, looking to put the rook on C4.
Right.
That's right. He's going to put the rook on C4 instead. I was surprised he didn't put his rook on A4 originally, because that would have also kept the A pawn at bay.
Right. And now what can Nakamura do to save this position, as his D4 pawn is about to drop, and if it does, he'll simply lose the game. This looks completely lost now.
That's right. I mean, I actually wouldn't be surprised if he resigns at some moment. And he's played, although Nakamura does not like to give up, and he's played the move B6.
Right. But that was the
What's
bullet,
funny, though,
the bullet
what's
rule.
funny is this.
The bullet rule. This is not exactly bullet.
Never resign.
But guys, check this out.
Yes.
If knight takes on d4
Yes.
and the king moves,
Yes.
how do you unpin yourself? Knight takes d4, king anywhere. Yeah, king a6. How do you unpin yourself as white? You'd have to somehow maybe get your king to c3?
Yeah.
But even that doesn't unpin yourself. How do you unpin? This is what Garry is studying right now. How you win the pawn, but you cannot unpin yourself. And it's caused, this is the only thing that's causing trickery. He can't take the pawn yet. That capture creates too difficult a technical issue to take on d4, and he decided to not capture just yet and just play slowly, leave the pawn there. It's a weakness for now, so don't bother it. And he's just building his position as now his rook goes to c7. He's decided the pawn is a blockade to black. It's a weakness, don't touch it. And now forcing, look at that, forcing the black rook over to f8. Garry getting more activity.
But we can play for b4 and rook a3 as well.
Of course, and he's played b4. Has played very sharp play by Kasparov, and now he's just overwhelming the position. This is all him now. Beautiful play.
Yeah,
Beautiful play.
Beautiful play. Understanding not to take the pawn at that moment was critical, and now Naka realizes that he's busted. He's now got to fight for his life as he plays this move, and here the knight comes back to the e2 square, but now it is a pawn. Yeah. Now he's won the pawn cold, and there it is. Rook takes, and he's got the second pawn in his pocket, and Nakamura scrambling now after rook takes rook f5.
Rook f5, he's down a piece.
Exactly.
He's down a piece for one pawn. No,
this is hopeless.
This is
and down on the clock.
Yeah, this is resigned soon.
This is to be
think.
resigned. Yes. A very nice move. I like that.
And
move.
Wesley is winning completely against Fabiano.
Winning. Yes.
So this result will affect the standings dramatically. A mate threat on the board. Give us another pawn. He's just grabbing pawns left and right. Nakamura stunned right now. It could have been a coronation, but it looks as though he's going to simply lose the game, offering a trade of rooks.
And guys, this sets up an incredible last round for us in this Ultimate Blitz Challenge. Wow.
Garry controlling the board with that last move, and now just knows he's the cat and Nakamura is the mouse right now. Can he finish him off? Still playing as Nakamura. You know his defensive skills. Here we go. Check. And can he put together the sequence as Nakamura has got two of his pawns
and the time
on lock? He's still he's equalized on time now. Look at Nakamura defend. Amazing defense right now. The game should be over already, but Naka is still defending.
Wesley won his game, setting up for an incredible finish.
Well, that's only if Garry wins. Garry is not finding the way to win this position. A piece up. He has not figured it out. Now he's brought his rook backwards to guard everything. And how does he figure out the win? Bishop attacking rook, chasing that away. Nakamura not giving him any easy road to win this position. And now he's trading rooks. There goes a trade of rooks happening on the board.
So that he can play f4 and then advance with his king up the board.
It still worked. The black king looks to go to b4. He's played rook to c4. Doesn't that allow rook d3?
Rook d3, rook f4.
And he has played it, rook f4, and now his pass f-pawn is the story of the position, but there's a pass b-pawn for black.
Which will be curtailed after bishop e5. Posting up, what? I thought he was going to play king up and bishop e5. This is not the technique I would have thought Garry would use.
No, but it's winning now. Now it is winning. That f-pawn galloping down the board really quickly, and this is going to be it. Rook check, chasing the king away and winning a rook.
There it goes.
Kasparov, playing spoiler. Amazing by the king, Garry Kasparov.
Did you see his
Garry has a lot of titles.
Like, finally, I got some luck. I got a break. And what, Jennifer, how does this set us up for the last
Nakamura is smiling there, laughing as though it doesn't mean anything.
This puts Wesley in contention, but to be fair, I mean, a real heroic defense by Nakamura. I mean, I was actually predicting some resignation at some point, but it just goes to show you, if Nakamura's playing against a lesser player,
he may have saved that game.
His defense can save. I mean, don't give up in Blitz. And let's see. We've got
Whoa.
Nakamura and Wesley So within a point of each other.
And Garry within a point of Wesley. So Garry.
And because Nakamura and Wesley So play each other in the last round, Wesley has a chance to still top this Ultimate Blitz Challenge.
He will have black against Hikaru in the last game. He will have black, so that's a problem for him. Garry could tie Wesley if Hikaru wins, and that wouldn't be a bad result. After all, he would regret the misses he made. But, you know, today it doesn't look as though Garry blundered anything. It looks like it was just a regular day where the other players just played better.
That's right.
And we do have potential playoff scenario here. If Wesley So does win, if we've got a tie for first place, we've got a 2-game Blitz match. Wow. Same Blitz that we've been seeing, 5 minutes with a 3-second delay, followed by an Armageddon game if undecided. Gosh, now I love the way Nakamura's been playing, but I'm kind of rooting for Wesley to win now because I want to see more Blitz.
I know. I feel the same way.
Everybody's rooting for Wesley now. More Blitz, more fun.
Yeah. Great stuff, hasn't it been, Jennifer?
So go Wesley. Wesley, we don't want to leave just yet.
Exactly.
One round's going to be over in 10 minutes, and we could be here for another hour.
The players have really treated this to a fantastic event. This has just been marvelous to watch. I really am in awe of what they all have played today and yesterday. It's been great. And that game that Wesley So defeated Garry Kasparov earlier in the day will go down as one of the greatest Blitz games ever played.
And if he wins this one, that'll be spectacular.
Also,
by the way, and if he wins the tournament, he will be a true hero. But he's got black against Hikaru Nakamura. That is not going to be easy at all. His hands are full. If I may just show very quickly, just quick second, what happened in the game against Fabiano Caruana. Just this moment here, he played this move, knight to d6. Sorry, after bishop b5, knight to d6, and picked off an exchange right here. The rook was trapped, and that's how he got his exchange ahead, and he just summarily milked the game after that. So that's how he won his game. Now it's time. Can he do this against the leader?
Wesley So already a hero in my book. I mean, a lot of people counted him out of being the champion here in the Ultimate Blitz Challenge, but he's shown what he's made of, and that he can play classical or blitz with the best of them. Just fantastic.
Absolutely.
You know, we could practically write a tournament book on this, just on the blitz. I mean, that's what's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many tactics, and honestly, it's very instructive, the blitz, for amateur players because there's more blunders and tactics. And
Wesley needs a win on demand.
Are we going to see another Queen's Gambit decline? No, that was
an A6 Slav, an A6 Slav on the board right now.
And knight c3.
And
bishop f5. So this is giving Hikaru an opportunity, if he wants to play an exchange Slav with cd5. That's not his style, and he should be true to himself and not be playing for the draw, but just play for the advantage.
That's right. I mean, especially in blitz.
And queen b3 is on the board. And rook to a7, that unusual-looking rook move that has become extremely popular in this line, guarding the b-pawn in the most efficient way. And now knight to h4, attacking the bishop. Bishop dropping all the way back, allowing white's bishop to jump to the d3 square.
Not an opening to show newcomers to the game. Rook a7, bishop back to c8. I mean, wait till your students are 1600 or so, 1800, until you teach them anything like this.
At some point, black wants to play the move b5 if allowed. So that is something that white will be on the watch for. But black has to do it just at the right time. And he's taken first on c4 and played b5 in the position now. Dropping back is the bishop.
Oh, he's going to want to follow up b5 at some point with c5 to unbottle his pieces. That bishop on c8 would love to go to b7. That knight on b8 would love to come to d7.
Well, it has done so. Knight on d7, a4. Naka just needs a draw. Let's keep that in mind. He just needs a draw to win the tournament, and he knows it. b4, knight dropping back to b1, and that c4 square is going to be a bit of a problem. And there's c5, as you mentioned, Jen, on the board now.
Yeah, he'd love to play c5 before developing the bishop in case you take, but...
Save yourself a tempo by recapturing the division.
Interesting situation, allowing the potential isolated pawn and bishop to b7. All of black's pieces, he's just a tempo away from playing bishop e7 and castles And now he's decided to go for that isolated pawn with takes on d4, challenging white after a trade now. Bishop takes.
And Wesley pausing because there is a capture on e3 to be considered.
Kind of hard to believe he can play that move.
That he has recaptured the bishop.
Actually, the Indians gave D takes e3. Greed is good as far as Indians are concerned, but humans want to play positional chess, and this move, not capturing e3, might have been the chance that Wesley needed, but he played very quickly there without considering the capture for too long, and the Indians say that now he's basically equalized the position, but he could have had an edge if he had stolen that pawn on e3.
That would have been a big gamble.
It would have been a big gamble, but he might have needed to do it given the tournament situation.
Well, but there's still some imbalances in this position, so I don't hate the scenario for Wesley So here.
Yeah, but it's very close now.
Yeah, he's playing against the isolated queen pawn, keeping the position somewhat imbalanced when he's in a must-win situation.
Hard to see him winning
It really
this
is.
kind of position.
It
Naka
really
just
is.
trading off pieces now. He definitely missed a big chance. He does have, like you said, the isolated queen pawn, but it gets theoretical in these kind of positions. And Naka, as a great defender, there he goes, bishop to e3. I think
Threatening d5, so we expect knight d5 post pin up.
Absolutely.
So the classic advantage for black, clearly white no longer is playing for some real win necessarily in this kind of position, although white could put the knight somehow to the c5 square. Knight e5, probably drop back to d3 and find the c5 square, and that's him getting his own counterplay as well. Just not easy for black to prove anything right now, and I think Naka knows Wesley's going to have to take a risk of some kind, but it's just not easy to advance in this position.
That's right, because we have some weaknesses as well. So if we try to play something like rook d7 and rook d8, you're always going to have these pesky knight e5 moves.
And, well, in any case, rook b7 was an inactive rook. There was this idea of knight to e5 and taking control of the c6 square. So that was why Wesley felt obliged to trade off a pair of rooks. Now this queen c4. Why did... I'm a little surprised by that move, queen c4.
Whoa, did Wesley play knight back to b6?
He did, allowing
What
this
is
move
that?
queen c7. And
c7.
and that did happen.
And suddenly the advantage is turned, and I very much like...
White is back.
White
Yeah.
White is back. These positions are very hard to play, and Wesley just did not find his best chance here. He has to trade.
He thought perhaps that after queen c7, rook c7, maybe he thought that a4 was dropping from the position. After bishop
I don't think
d8.
he even looked at this move.
After bishop d8, we're taking on a4, and we also are threatening to take on b2, but I think you have a well-timed b3 move.
Absolutely.
And so after knight a4, yeah.
No, you just play this rook behind this pawn, and now knight takes.
Oh, okay, I see. I thought you were going to go the other way. Yeah. So just knight a4 now, and
Rook
you're just
takes
going
b4.
to take back on b4. Yeah. But Nakamura is pausing. He is considering whether he should stick in the move b3 and then take the pawn on b4.
Well, in either case, the knight would.
You know, there's a
find its
move
way
here.
to
The Indians
d5.
are pointing out the move d5 right now. d5, a crazy idea, but the knight is trapped. That knight on a4 is trapped, and Nakamura smells the moment. There's no question he's looking at this opportunity and wondering where it leads, and it's actually quite good for him. This knight gets caged. Very tricky situation for Wesley right now. He has to be careful that his knight does not get trapped, and the Indians are giving d5 and saying you cannot touch the pawn on d5. You have to play bishop f6. Nakamura is studying the moment right now. You know, this is the kind of thing you want to do when there's a moment.
It's that sixth sense.
He does.
Because d5 is not the move that, jumps out at you.
And continues the flow.
Exactly.
It's a break.
Hikaru has that tactical, gifted awareness in...
And he's avoided it with rook takes b4. He couldn't calculate. He offered a draw, and Wesley has taken the draw. Incredible. Wesley just decided to bail out right now, it being an equal position, and Hikaru Nakamura is the champion.
Or maybe even a bit better for white. I think that's the problem, because he's got more activity in there. Rook on f8 is terrible. So
Wesley will be very, very pleased to have taken second place, because now he cannot get caught by Garry Kasparov.
That's right, and we see that...
our champion, Hikaru Nakamura.
So let's turn our eyes on Garry Kasparov's last game here in St. Louis.
And he's got a big edge. According to the Indians, he's completely outplayed Fabiano Caruana. Luckless Fabi in this tournament for sure. He's getting outplayed. all the games, and black is just dominating the board. There's no real progress for white possible here. It looks just difficult for white to do anything.
All of these weaknesses on these light squares, and Garry, once again, in his element as a fierce attacker.
He would love to go out with a win for sure. He will not catch Wesley with this win, but a clear third place. And winning the game against Naka just now, then beating Fabi, that would be a little bit of a consolation.
Yeah, that's a nice
tournament.
Nice consolation finish. We've seen flashes of brilliance by Garry, and it just goes to show what a fantastic competitor he had been. And he retired 11 years ago. And in the first day of play, he was pushing these guys around the board, and that was an amazing, amazing performance. And there's Garry going after those light square weaknesses. He's just played bishop f3, setting up all kinds of checkmating nets, what every Russian schoolboy knows.
H3 check. Yeah, you know, the funny thing is, Fabiano Caruana was playing the light squares against him in the last game, so black is good.
Yeah. Well, what Fabi did against Garry was a master class. I wouldn't say he's luckless. He too has shown some great ability, but somebody, not everybody, but somebody has to take last place.
Yeah, this has been a tremendously tight tournament, though. There was remember, we came in today with any of the 4 players really with realistic chances of taking down this challenge.
Absolutely. We just see this move C, D4, D5 by
Fabi.
Knight E5, and he had to take that knight. That knight is just too powerful. This looks like an overwhelming attack to my eyes.
That's right. No, Knight E1 desperately trying to guard the F3 square, so that in the event of Bishop G2, King G2, you don't have to worry about H3 and Queen F3 just ending the story.
Exactly.
But this is just a direct attack.
Yes.
It just seems straightforward. A queen to H5 would be a nice move. He's taking on G3. I think he has to take with the F pawn, no? Just to save his life.
Yeah,
otherwise,
this is the
he might get mated on the H file.
Taking with the F pawn is probably forced, but then that E3 pawn is going to be tenderized with Bishop H6 and Knight G4.
And he has taken with the F pawn, and
recognizing the reality of how difficult is his position.
That's right, because it's not just the bishop on H6; it's also the knight coming to G4.
And there you go. You see, I mean, how quickly Garry can pounce on a position. It's really remarkable.
Look at this, King G7 by Garry.
So that if Knight G4, at least you can hang on by a thread with Rook B3. Garry bringing in another piece with Bishop H6 with King G7.
Just setting up the
H8.
potential Rook H8.
What is Garry thinking about? Rook H8 doesn't work right now because, well, is he going to play allow knight takes on D6? Can he do that? Rook H8?
Certainly not. He'll throw an A6 first, Maurice. Just drive the knight back.
He was hovering over his rook, but now he's changing his mind and he's starting with the move Queen H5. Remember that
we thought
he can play Knight G4.
Earlier, yeah. We thought definitely Queen H5 and Knight G4.
But the move A6 was much stronger according to the engines, and this one much weaker. But no, actually, he's still in it. He's still there with opportunities because the A pawn, according to the engines, this is not too deep an analysis. The A pawn is hanging, but nobody's going to take that pawn on A7. Forget that. There's mating ideas you have to worry about on the other side of the board. And now he's playing
a good move by Fabi.
H3. Yes, he's making it tough.
Yeah, he's trying to heal his position, no question about it.
And now
another nice move by Garry, Knight H7, trying to post up his knight on to the G5 square so that he can attack this pawn on H3.
And now desperation mode by Fabi is playing G4, and Gary's just snapped that off. Interesting.
Sacrificed a piece.
He sacked a piece. A tremendous sacrifice by Kasparov. And he's going to bring all his pieces near that king. No queen trades allowed. Forget about that. Queen to G3 now.
Automatic.
And look at that. No, and now the pawn on E3 is hanging with check. And the rook is coming in the game. The knight is coming in the game. A beautiful sacrifice by Kasparov. And he is completely winning now. Here comes the knight. G5. And what are you going to do?
Heads up.
The check threats are coming. this is over.
That's right. We got Fabi is running, but unfortunately it's going to be hard to run when Garry.
Where are you running?
So the H5 where the rook has shown up, and Caruana in deep trouble now. He's taken.
And now the move
on
king
D6.
D8, threatening bishop F8 check.
Oh, that is all over now. Bishop back to F8, king over, knight H3 check, and Garry sees the whole combination as he has brought. He's played the check, the king over,
Bishop F8,
and he's taken the knight, traded that last piece off.
And now the rook's coming into F5, and Fabi is forced to give up his knight on F3.
Oh, he got crushed.
Beautiful.
What a game. Garry Kasparov, attacking style, and he is happy with himself, cheering for that finish. An amazing finish. He beat Nakamura and Caruana in the last 2 games.
And after hanging a lot of knights, he showed such great knight play in that game. So really a beautiful end. And it's wonderful to see Garry's emotion. The pure emotion, just happiness. I played a great game to finish off this after playing so much wonderful chess.
Exactly.
And let's take a look at our champion of the Ultimate Blitz Challenge, Hikaru Nakamura. He gets $20,000 for first place with a big 10.5 score. 10.5 points out of 18 games. Actually not that big. So you could have predicted that somebody might have gotten an even bigger score at the beginning of this.
12.
Actually got 11.
Oh, 11 actually. That was a misprint. Sorry, guys. So, yeah, 11 points out of 18. Wesley So picking up $15K for his efforts with 10 points. Garry Kasparov generously donating his $10,000 prize to U.S. chess team in the Olympiad, which is going to be a super strong team with these guys. And our U.S. champion, Fabiano Caruana, 5.5 points. That's right. So we have 10K going to that Olympic team. And our U.S. champion, not finishing first in this competition, but he's with Maurice right now to talk about the twists and turns.
With U.S. champ Fabiano Caruana having a tough day today for sure, scoring 2 points out of 9. Fabi, is it hard to get real motivation to play in this tournament after you've won a U.S. championship? How seriously did you take this event? How much did you prepare for it?
I didn't really prepare, but I'm not sure if anyone actually prepared very much at all. I mean, I did want to do well, and it was just a bit of a nightmare, starting from like round 6.
What do you think went wrong here?
Well, everything. No, I mean, the games I've been were just very bad.
When you're losing like that, do you feel like what's going on in my fingertips? My moves are not coming fast enough and accurately enough?
Yeah, the thing, I mean, it can also happen in classical chess, but in Blitz, it happens so much more suddenly, and it's really hard to stop it. I mean, the games just come one after the other. If you're not playing well, it's very easy to lose a bunch in a row. But it happens also from time to time in long games where you just don't know what you're doing.
Tough day. Last question for you. Garry Kasparov, I mean, he looked shaky at points, but he really looked amazing at some points. What was your impression seeing how he played?
Yeah, he's still a very strong player. I don't think that really came as a surprise to anyone. I mean, especially at Blitz, he still has fantastic instincts. So, I mean, those really go a long way. And, I mean, opening preparation and knowledge of current opening trends and what's happened for the past decade is much less relevant. So he does occasionally blunder. He's definitely a lot weaker than at his peak, but he's still a very, very good player.
As are you. We know that this was Blitz and anything could happen, but you still remain the U.S. champion. We look forward to seeing your future tournaments and shake this one off. And enjoy the time in Tampa as you get ready for your next event, which we will be looking forward to.
Thank you.
The U.S. champion, Fabiano Caruana. Difficult day for him, but still the champ.
Thank you, Fabi. Jen, overall impressions of this second day of action. What do you think?
Well, I think it's really all about Wesley's first game, and because that was just like such a stunner.
Right.
One for the books. I mean, you really could show that game alongside Morphy's game. I mean, one of the reasons I wrote Play Like a Girl was that I said, hey, you can show some of these same themes at the Classics show with Women's Champions games, and you can show some of the same themes at the Classics show with the games of the top American players.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very inspiring to children to see, like, hey, Wesley can come in, say hello, and give a sign at my school, and he can also play one of the best games I've seen.
Yes.
And we're talking kids who have just started, and against the hero himself.
Yes, Wesley. That game will certainly open up a lot of eyes as to what a great talent Wesley So is. And we're just getting set up in our studio for our second guest.
That's right. And what about you? I mean, Nakamura also, he said he didn't like the way he played yesterday, and I had to kind of agree. I feel like we expect even more from this Blitz legend, but today he showed what he was made of.
Really, Hikaru impressed. Absolutely. He was playing the best chess in the second leg of this tournament, without question. A deserving winner. And the only huge blemish was that loss to Garry Kasparov, but even in that game, he made it tough. Yes.
Down an entire piece for like no compensation. He still was like, hey, you still have to beat me.
Exactly.
And we've got Wesley So, and everybody was clapping at the end of your game, Wesley. We needed some coins to throw. He's with Maurice Ashley.
Yes, with the second place finisher, Wesley So, after playing simply an amazing Morphe-esque game in game one. Beautiful attacking chess. You came in today with great aspirations, Wesley. First of all, let's talk about this game. Did you feel how powerful it was when you played the game?
Again, the last
game
round?
Against Garry. No, first round. The one where you played with c5 and b4 and sacked on e5 with a knight and then sacked on c6 with a rook. I'm going to be showing that one to my students for years to come.
Thank you. Well, it's incredible because usually it's almost impossible to do something like this when you only have 5 minutes on the clock. But at the same time, Garry also only has 5 minutes on the clock. So I'm sure he had a better defense somewhere. But over Blitz, it's not easy with your king and castle, even if he was up 2 pawns. So, yeah, b5 was a blunder because I was intending to take on e5 anyway. But now he's giving me a free pawn. So instead of b5, he should have gone a5. But then rook b8, and then I didn't want to give my bishop, so I went bishop a4. And it's
pretty hard to make any moves in this position.
When you have 2 minutes left on the clock, it's difficult because I'm also threatening knight h4, for instance.
Just spreading the defense. Tremendous game. Like we said, we were in shock. It was hard to do commentary after you played this game. We just wanted to stop the tournament for a little while. So we could watch, analyze just this game alone.
Yeah, and to do this against immortal Garry Kasparov is just incredible.
It really was incredible. But then you kind of caught a little hiccup somewhere in the middle. Was it against Nakamura, maybe?
Yes, it was. I lost my white game against him, and I lost. I think I lost 2 games against him today. I lost my white game.
Yeah, and then you lost the next one to him as well.
Yes, so that was unfortunate. He played the same variation as he did yesterday in the Queen's Gambit decline. Then he has some improvement and some new ideas of a setup. And then I simply became too passive and too comfortable in my position. I thought, I have a solid position. And then suddenly he took my pawn on b4.
Right, that trick. When you put your king on f1, that costs you.
And the thing here in Blitz is that you can never sacrifice pawns or pieces just like that. And so after that, I had no chances. And that's unfortunate because it was clearly an important game for the final standings.
Now, many players weren't putting you as one of the favorites in the event. Nobody had really seen you play too much Blitz. How did you practice for this event?
Well, it's not too easy. I played online Blitz, but it's not the same playing online and playing over the board. And also, I'd like to thank Alex Lenderman for helping me before this Blitz by offering to play some Blitz with me, and we did, and it just got me warmed up. But
how could Alex Lenderman prepare you for Garry Kasparov, Fabiano Caruana, and Hikaru Nakamura? I mean, Alex is a good player.
Yes, yes, that's why I was kind of shocked, and I lost my first 2 games in this tournament because I didn't realize simply how powerful my opponents were, and I didn't expect Garry to play the same exciting, energetic chess as he did before. But he played extremely well, and I was fortunate to save a lot of games against him.
You stole a couple of knights there from him. Otherwise, the result could have been flipped.
And 2 days, in 2 games, yes. But today he was watching out for his knights very well.
Yeah, it was your sacrificing pawns that undercut him. Last question for you. Do you want to play more of these Blitz events? Do you think that they're fun to play on a professional level?
Yes, well, they are definitely fun and exciting, especially since Garry very graciously accepted to play here. It's a big thing that he decided to play. Of course, give his prize winnings for the U.S. Olympiad team. That was really a great thing for him to do. I believe it's exciting, but it also requires a lot of preparation from the players. You simply cannot play this every day and expect to play well. But we have the Grandchester coming up in 2 months, I believe, or in less than 2 months.
That's right, in June, beginning June 8th.
Yes,
in Paris. I'll be there as well with you guys, having the fun.
In Paris and Brussels. Speaking of which, we just got our ticket to that today, so we'll see you there. Yes, Blitz chess can be an exciting supplement for classical chess. Although, of course, with 5 minutes a game, you cannot avoid making tons of mistakes.
Mistakes do happen. The fans love it, and the fans love you. Always gracious. Thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations on your second place finish.
Thank you. Congratulations to the winner, Hikaru.
Grandmaster Wesley So, one of the nicest players you'll ever meet. Absolutely great performance today.
I will remain in awe of that Blitz game for the rest of my life. I just thought watching that unfold was unbelievable, and the dynamic aggression that Wesley showed in that game, sacrificing 1 pawn, 2 pawns, the knight, the rook. It was just poetry.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. I really love the way he started with that move B4. And the amazing thing was Garry Kasparov. For us, Garry Kasparov already realized what was happening after B4.
Yes.
He realized the impending doom.
Yes. That he was on the receiving end of a brilliancy. Yes.
That's right. Although it took a lot more time for the fans and the spectators to see what was going to happen.
Right.
As soon as B4 happened, he started shaking his head.
Exactly. He knew his spidey sense started tingling.
But some brilliant games by Garry Kasparov today as well, and he's with Maurice to talk about the second thrilling day here in St. Louis.
Our third place finisher, Garry Kasparov, with just some electrifying chess both days of the tournament, undercut by his blunders, the 3 knights gambit. I'm sure you remember these 3 knights for a while, but you did play some real satisfying games. Tell us what it felt like to play 2 days of chess against 3 of the best chess players in the world.
It was a tough night, actually, because I just couldn't get rid of these horrors, these blunders. Actually, this is the worst memory of yesterday. Was not a blunder, but the way I played against Wesley. So probably it had a psychological impact on me. So that's why I played so poorly against him today. Ironically, I won two micro matches. Just as if somebody would have told me before the beginning that I could beat Hikaru in 6 games match, and to lose, I will lose to Wesley. I mean, I don't think anybody would believe in it. I was thinking what was knight on d6. This is the knight that is totally paralyzed black's position, and I could do whatever. So just it's I didn't also know what to do today because I thought, should I try to play just to win, or just there were many many problems, and that's probably the most important one is that I was out of professional chess for so long, so that's why actually playing these guys and just realizing that I have to be it's very so serious, preparing and I knowing that it's just to win the game. It takes much more than just winning a game, because they will fight to the very end. So and I as you could see, this is the first game I played very poorly. So was Wesley. It's quite ironic because he sacrificed a pawn, which was a very dubious sacrifice. If I played instead of b6, b5, I just had an extra pawn, and okay, he had some compensation, but it would be a different ball game. And then the moment I played b6, and I just And then I just immediately made a second mistake with bishop c6. That's what happens. And then it just after a bit before, you completely lost. So I just, and he finished very, very nicely.
It's a beautiful game,
It's
though,
a beautiful
after your
game, but it's
mistakes.
just, it reminded me of the games Morphy played with amateurs. So that's why, and I was on the side. Okay, I was an amateur in this game. Yeah, it was a total disaster. So, but okay, it's a nice game. So, but it's, I know the good thing is that I could recover. So, and the last round. So after this miraculous, game with Wesley, when I just saved a total lost end game, I was about to resign, a couple of times, but then he missed a few wins, and then suddenly I created chances. So and it always happened with Blitz. So that's why he got panicked, and maybe even in the final position he could still go rook c1, but it was already it was rook on b1. He wasn't sure, so after I saved the game, I said, well, let's try again. And then Hikaru, was very gracious because, he just played a very bad move, bishop d4, and then gave up a piece. I don't know why. So that was totally, just unexplainable to me.
And that allowed you to win the last two games, and you seem quite satisfied. That last game you played against Fabi was a nice little attack.
Actually, last game, sometimes, there's the old memories just being revived. I played this move, bishop f5. It's against a British player, Webb. It was the first round of European Team Championship in 1980. And it was my first actual game for the Soviet national squad. So I was a second reserve, and he played d4, e4, and knight. I think he played knight g5, rook e8, and it says, and I was very proud of this move bishop f5 because it allowed me to meet d4 with e4. So and I won a very nice game. So his knight actually, was rotten on h3. I just pushed it there. The way Caruana played, just was, it was so easy for black because, I could build, my momentum there, just, and it just reminded me of the last game I played with Nigel here. Just also, having, all the pieces there. So it was easy. So easy, but, it's still, I enjoyed it. And it's just I like the moment when I could sacrifice my sort of how to push g4 just to keep all the pawns out of the board, and then just to have the final attack, and then rook h8, king g8, bishop f8. It was nice.
It was very nice.
So, okay, nice finish. So I'm quite happy again. As I say, I won 2 micro matches. I ended +1. So again, I did better than many expected. So I didn't. I don't
know. Yasser thought you were going to win the whole thing.
No, but look, yesterday I missed my chance. So this is just, it's because, we can go on analyzing it, but yesterday I missed really big chance. So this is winning, just not blundering these 2 nights. So just, scoring probably a point and a half against So in these 2 games. That would be a very different match, a very different tournament for me.
Absolutely. We see that you're giving your winnings to the U.S. Olympic team. Tell us why you felt that would be a good idea.
Look, I'm an amateur. I'm not a professional player. So I just, I think it's, they were gracious. They wanted to play this event, and I thought it would be nice, if I make the donation. So okay. I hope it will be a bigger donation. but whatever it is, it goes to the team, and I wish them good luck in Baku.
Well, we absolutely appreciate that. Your hometown, the Baku, in fact. So, will we see more of Garry Kasparov playing Blitz? After all, the openings don't seem to matter as much. All this opening development over the last 10 years, it's all about instinct. It's all about understanding chess. You seem to be rising to the occasion, showing those old skills. A lot more Blitz from you?
It's right now just, being fresh after 2 straight victories against Nakamura and Caruana in the last 2 games. Yeah, I'm inclined to say yes. But, just remembering, my emotions last night, this morning, so I'm not so sure. Look,
Come on, Garry.
I think it is this, I think I proved that I could play against them, so it's a lot of fun. So, and maybe but I probably need, if I take the challenge again, I would do probably a more serious preparation because, you have so many things, floating in the head, at my age, you have family, you have other things, and I have lectures, I have writings, I do, a lot of stuff on Twitter, on Facebook, and so there's the political appearances, and then you just have to think about Scotch, and then you have to think about other things, and it's just, and it's the problem is, it's many positions is difficult for me to play because, because I don't have this practice. So they play some positions so often, like the Berlin or classical Ruy Lopez or Queen's Gambit. Yeah, I know how to play them, but in Blitz it's very difficult. Just to take this challenge because it's all about instincts, and they're much better prepared for that. So if it happens again, so I will probably look at some other ideas. But it's when I had my chance to attack and just to sacrifice some material, so I did well.
Yeah, you did more than well. You acquitted yourself brilliantly. I've been calling your games and matches since 1994, and it's always a pleasure to see you play, and seeing you now in fine form is excellent. We want to see more of it, absolutely. I think the fans are calling for it. Garry Kasparov, thank you so much for joining us and hosting this event.
Thank you.
Former world champion Garry Kasparov showing that old form. Boy, you do not want to put a king in his face. He will crack it for sure. Simply great chess, and yeah, we want him to play more chess.
Thank you, Maurice and Gary. Day one, it was the Garry Kasparov show. I mean, we were just mesmerized by his play in the first day. Like you said, he missed some crucial opportunities in that first day, and that opened the door wide open to Wesley and Hikaru.
That's right, and our champion Nakamura, we're getting him set up now, and yeah, that final game that Gary played, though, leaving a lasting impression. It's just such a sweet taste to end a tournament.
Absolutely.
With that.
Absolutely, and he shows what he's capable of. But a man who we knew coming in was an extraordinary blitz specialist, and just the best blitz player the world has ever seen, in my opinion, is Hikaru Nakamura, our winner. That's right,
and he is he's making some faces.
He's making faces.
But we're about to get him on camera, so keep making those faces, Nakamura, and congratulations.
Absolutely, congratulations, Hikaru.
Hikaru Nakamura, one of the top 10 players in the world. Blitz has been his calling card for years and years, and many thought he was going to be the favorite to win this event. He did deliver on that. First of all, Hikaru, congratulations on first place.
Thanks.
After yesterday, you felt shaky. You said it didn't seem like you were playing your best chess for sure, but you were still tied at the top. Today, you seem to have your game face on from the very first round. What was your attitude? Did it shift going into today that this was not an exhibition event, but it was time for you to win this tournament?
I mean, I don't think it was that. I think it's just yesterday I was just not seeing anything. Like, every game yesterday I was losing at some point. There's no doubt about that. And, I mean, okay, if you play one bad game, 2, 3, it can happen. But to just be, like, much worse loss in every single one, I mean, I just wasn't there yesterday. But today, yeah, things went, a lot better for me. So it was pretty smooth, I would say.
How does that happen? How does the switch just go off? One day everything's going badly, the next day suddenly you're a genius.
I mean, that happens to everyone. You have your good days and your bad days. But I think today, more importantly, there was one player who really didn't play well today. I think that was Fabiano, and because of that, several of us were able to rack up a lot of points, and that's what made the difference. I played fine against Wesley. I did well against him. I did not do so well against Gary, obviously, despite some good positions. So yeah, it was pretty balanced, but I took advantage of the opportunities when they arose today, especially.
Your defensive skills were really on call against Gary that one game that you played when he played Knight G3.
Well, I was a little bit fortunate in that one, but the first game of the day against Gary, where I was black, I was quite happy with the way I defended, because I think Gary's preparation was quite good for this event in that it wasn't, okay, obviously chess has changed. You can't just win games out of the opening, but he did find ways to create positions where it was much easier for him to play than it was for us. And when that happens in normal games, it's a challenge. But when it happens in Blitz, where you don't have a lot of time to figure it out, it becomes especially tricky. And so I thought Gary was quite good at that today. He probably should have finished in second, I think.
What are your thoughts about Kasparov playing more chess? Do you think it's great for the game that he's playing in these Blitz events, showcasing his old skills?
Yeah, it's always a good thing. I think I think the main thing is it's clear that he's not done. He's still quite competitive. And I think if he's competitive, I don't know why he shouldn't play. I mean, I think playing normal tournaments, of course, takes too much time, and it's a real grind, especially at his age. But still, I mean, he's a competitive player, and these exhibitions, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't. I think it's very good for chess.
Your feeling about winning this event, you did not do as well in the U.S. Championship as you might have hoped. There was two games you didn't like in the U.S. Championship that decided it for you, but you wanted to win this, of course.
Yeah, I mean, to not win something here would have been a little bit disappointing, but I'm just happy that I was able to play well today, because I feel like the last couple days, I mean, I've just been like starting to lose it a little bit, just too much chess since February. So it's kind of the end of a long series of tournaments. I'm just happy that I was able to win today, and now I can relax for a few months.
Few months. What's your next tournament?
Well, maybe it's not a few months. I guess it's the Grand Chess Tour in June,
in Paris.
June
okay,
5th or something. But I mean, I've been on the road since like early January. I haven't been at home since then. So it's just it's been a lot of chess, a lot of traveling. I mean, a lot of ups and downs. I mean, candidates especially. So I'm just glad that I can get a break now.
Well, the life of a professional chess player, of course, it's never done. There are tournaments to play. But you are now the champion of this tournament, and congratulations on showcasing your skills today.
Thanks, Maurice.
Hikaru Nakamura, the winner of Ultimate Blitz, showing why he's simply one of the best Blitz players on the planet.
Thank you, Maurice. And again, congratulations to Hikaru for an outstanding performance. He gave us a lot of thrills, I would say, in this event.
Absolutely. All of the games, I mean, it was almost like every round was filled with thrills and spills.
Absolutely.
You know, could barely catch your breath, as you pointed out after that Wesley game.
Oh, yeah. I'm still reeling.
So, I mean, real big thanks to all of the players and, you know, especially Garry for agreeing to come out of retirement to play this.
Yes. What a challenge. Think about the challenge.
What he risks there.
Yeah. I mean, these three opponents, in my mind, are 3 of 6 of the best Blitz players in the world, and to accept that challenge after an 11-year hiatus is not easy, and he really acquitted himself.
The only thing we need to make it the best thing of all time would be to add Magnus in the mix.
Absolutely.
Who did win in Norway. Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wonderful.
And I've heard that. And Maurice Ashley, your final thoughts?
Well, this was simply a thrill to commentate on, a tremendous event. Garry Kasparov showing his old skills, joyous, ebullient at the end of it, winning against Fabi and Nakamura in the last 2 rounds. He's definitely a champion we want to see play more and more. And, of course, the 3 players who competed against him, 3 of the finest players in the United States, they will be representing us in the Olympiad. And his generous donation will certainly go a long way to seeing that maybe we'll win it all, win gold. But it was golden today. What a great experience. I'm grateful to be a part of it, and everyone here in St. Louis. It's been a long road for us as well. We did the U.S. Championship, doing commentary for that, and now these 2 days. But it's always fun, and I look forward to joining the team again. And Paris, that's going to be the next big one for us. I'll be packing my bags and getting my beret on, get that baguette and croissants. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for having me and this great team.
That's right. I mean, we've had over 100,000 viewers yesterday, and we really got to thank our crew here. A lot of people talk about how amazing this event was, but the production value that shows you all those beautiful shots, all those great graphics by Eric,
the montage scenes,
yeah,
all the intro pieces.
Yeah, so we really got to thank Spectrum Studios, Randy Singfield's company, because we've got Jen, Marcus, Eric, Liz, Justin, so many people, Brian, Tom, Kite, Tammy, so many people literally working around the clock to make this production beautiful for you.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much for their outstanding work. And
we are going to be back in Paris and Brussels, and we can't wait for you guys to join us again.
The Grand Chess Tour.
That's right. Stay tuned for the Grand Chess Tour in just a month and a half. We are going to have Magnus Carlsen playing in that, as well as the top 3 players from the U.S. Chess Championship. So enjoy your month and a half off, and we'll see you in June. Thanks, everybody here at the St. Louis Chess Club, and, of course, to all of our fans and viewers. Bye, guys.